Hello, everyone. It's Scotty White World Combat Sports. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to kick this off and hit on some great topics, especially talking about this past weekend. So just give me a minute, as always, to kind of set this up. Please leave your input in the live chat for those of you that decided to drop through today. I truly appreciate it. Let's talk this boxing as always. You know what it is. Smash that like button for me. Press that thumbs up. Salute to everyone as we bring in this 2020. You know what it is. So it's time to talk it up about the fight weekend that just went past in Atlanta, Georgia. And we're going to touch on some topics, man. We're going to touch on the reaction of the casual boxing fans that's out there. And some of these individuals who are sitting up here pretending like they aren't casuals, but they making casual comments. You know what I'm saying? They wasn't even at the fight, but yet they got so much criticism for the fighters just because they're not performing to their standard. And I think that's called casualism. It's not even a word. It's just like your comments. It's called casualism. That's all I can say about that. Let's talk about Badu Jack and Sean Pascal first. It was a great fight, man. I sat there and watched it from the opening bell to the final tick, right? And I can say this about Badu Jack. He's been on the wrong end of a lot of decisions, and people's like trying to give him a present or something, a holiday spirit or something he deserved for that performance. And though he performed well, he kind of started late. You know what I'm saying? Like he kind of started late. Pascal put in that work early. He laid the concrete and built his foundation, put away rounds early in the fight. And people not understanding that because they just look at what they seen on TV and they're not really scoring the fight effectively to who did the most damage. Yes, Badu Jack was dropped early. Yes, Pascal was landing on him early. I mean, absolutely punctual with his power shots. You have to give Pascal all the credit in the world for going in there to fight, to retain his title. He just wasn't going in there, just because he was on a big card again. He said, I've been in the top tier for 11 years. There's one thing that you cannot teach, and that is a chin and heart. I haven't posted his interview yet. I'm in the process of posting it. But that's what Badu Jack mentioned. One thing you can't teach is a chin and heart. And he's right. He does have a chin, even though Badu Jack was able to get the late knockdown with Pascal. I think just a little bit, if you're gonna assess the fight correctly, I think Badu Jack started to press the gas just a little bit late in the game. You know what I'm saying? Badu Jack seemed like a very nice guy, to be honest, very respectful athlete and sportsman. I just don't know why he's been on the end of a lot of decisions, except he may choose to kind of turn it on when the clock has kind of expired. It's not enough minutes on there for him to, gain that rounds back, to gain the rounds back or to gain favor of the judges or whatever the case may be, or to earn those rounds back. He may just wait too long for that to happen. I can tell you one person that was obviously, upset, and that was Floyd Mayweather. Like Floyd was like seriously upset that the decision didn't go in Badu Jack's favor. And I can understand, his fighter and everything. And this is not the first time that Badu Jack has been on the opposite side of the win. But that's something he may need to work on, because I thought for sure, from him experiencing that fight with Marcus Brown, who was in attendance, that he would have a different mentality if he was able to make it through such a horrific cut. He can still go in here, forget about that, and say, you know what, that took me to a depth that I haven't been before. So therefore, I'm gonna take this fight a little bit differently. It's almost like going to the depths of Savage you know what I'm saying, that you haven't reached, you know, that tenacious, ferocious, you know, he was covered in blood, can barely see. So after that fight right there, you say, well, seriously, it can't get any worse than that. So why not go in this fight with Pascal and really, you know, bring out every bit of, you know, his intensity, you know, try to test his will early. And Badu Jack didn't do that. I'm not saying he backed down, but I can tell you that he could have did a lot better. It could have been a lot more activity, in my opinion. That's just what I believe. Um, a lot of criticism is being handed down, you know, switching over. A lot of criticism is going towards Javante Tank Davis. And I see a trend is going on with some of these media outlets that really are very complacent with just being behind the screen and jumping on a webcam and feeling comfortable about themselves. You know what I'm saying? And that's not all of them, just some of them, because they quick to criticize any fighter that has earned their way to the top of the echelon, right? They at the top of the pecking order, and they perform. And then just because Tank didn't go in there and knock Gamboa out early in the round, somehow, some way, the first time he enters the 12th round, he's exposed. How is that the case? You know, the first time he enters the 12th round, he's exposed. I mean, that doesn't even make any logical sense. You know, Javante Davis went in there and Yurkis Gamboa went in there and put on a heck of a show. I have to give them credit. They put on a heck of a show, y'all. They absolutely did. And no one can take that away from either one of them. But there are some minuses I want to talk about. Javante came in here and put on a show in the ATL, and he brought his stable with him. But still, you have individuals talking about him being linked up to Adrian Broner, him not being disciplined, him missing weight again, pushing Gamboa and all that. So this is the hurt business, right? So you have media out here that's claiming they all about the sport of boxing. You know, some of these media, they all about the sport of boxing. But then when a fighter act a certain way, as if they're their fighter, they want to, you know, give the fans what they're looking for. They always say, give the fans what they want, looking for. So-and-so is exciting. They this, they that. That's what you want. You know, it's the hurt business, right? That's what we're talking about. Give the fans what they want to see. And for Javante Davis to push Gamboa after he missed weight, it only excited people to hurry up and get to the fight and wait for the main event. Because, like I said before, the seats was pretty. It was a lot of empty seats in there, you know, during the co-main event. Because a lot of people was outside taking, you know, drinks and eating and all that other stuff, man. But when the main event was about to come on deck, I'm talking about it was a packed house. It was shoulder to shoulder in there. You couldn't hardly find any empty seats. It was a lot of people on the floor, a lot of celebs in the building, everything, man. So you trying to criticize Javante and link him up to Tank, and he's not even nowhere. Link him up to AB, and that has nothing to do with it. You know, Adrian Broner was sitting down on the front row, next to Mauricio Suleiman, right? Doing nothing, chilling. He wasn't out, you know, acting the fool. It was Tank's night. So Tank comes to the ring. He goes in there and put on a performance in front of his second home. They was cheering him on. I really didn't think Atlanta boxing fans knew too much about boxing, but a lot of people was cheering Tank on. I would give him that credit, give him that salute. That in Atlanta, they cheered for, I guess, what they heard on the radio, and I guess common knowledge. That's what I can say about that. But from the opening bell, man, Tank went in there and unholstered that jab. He went in there and enforced that he was a stronger fighter. He tried to enforce that he was a stronger fighter. His punches did have a belligerent enforcement. It was thrown with bad intentions. Tank was going in there to finish Gamboa early. And he showed that. If you look at the fight, he showed he was going in there to finish. What more are you asking for? If any fighter goes in there that has knockout power and that can box, okay? Tank can box. But if you have a fighter that goes in there and he's trying to give a performance to the people and stop his opponent and get him up out of there early, why would you criticize a fighter just because he wasn't able to do it until the 12th round? It makes no sense at all, man. It's just like a bunch of whiners, man. A bunch of casual babies out here that need somebody to change their diaper. You're not going to get this man no love because he got knocked out in the 12th round. He didn't get the knockout the first time he knocked Gamboa down. So you're going to give Gamboa credit for toughing it out. All right. You know, having that intestinal fortitude to get up from a knockdown, and keep on fighting. 38 years old with a supposedly ruptured or whatever they're trying to bloviate it to out here in the media as being a snapped Achilles. Man, do you know how excruciating a snapped Achilles tendon is? Did you see what happened to Kevin Durant when his Achilles snapped? Did you see that same reaction from Gamboa? No, you didn't. I don't care what type of shoes you got on. If you want to talk about somebody's Achilles snapping, well, look at Kevin Durant when he went out there and he was injured and he attempted to play longer than he should have. He couldn't walk. You know what I'm saying? He couldn't walk. He was unable to walk on his own. Gamboa, he may have hurt something in between. You know, his first knockdown, he got sat down. He got sat on his behind and he hit the canvas, you know what I'm saying? And that was that. But it wasn't like it was a Luis Ortiz knockout when Luis was hit by Deontay Wilder and fell back and almost buckled his knee, you know, almost like Gabriel Gonzaga when he head kicked Mirko Krokov with that left high kick. And Krokov fell back on his leg, his right leg, and he almost looked like he was going to snap his knee in half. But the good thing about it, the referee was over there, you know, to pull his leg out. There's been plenty of fighters, man, that fell back crazy and they could snap their leg in half. You know what I'm saying? But Gamboa didn't have that situation where he was hit with that left uppercut and he went down and he got back up. So all this injury, he snapped his Achilles in. How the hell you must have an extremely high pain tolerance if you're going to tell me Gamboa snapped his Achilles and he fought for freaking what, 10 rounds? You know what I'm saying? Now all of a sudden he has a snapped Achilles and he just went in there and he was still able to land with Tank Davis, you know, hit him with a solid 3-punch combination. That's off the clinch. That's off the clinch in the later rounds. So you're trying to tell me he had a snapped Achilles tendon? That's nonsense, man. That's nonsense what you're saying. Y'all need to stop making these videos, sitting up here trying to do conspiracy theories about what Tank didn't do. Y'all leaving out. Y'all have a bad habit of going at some of these fighters that's there and easy for you all to reach out to and put them in the videos for controversy. It's easy for y'all to do that, man. Y'all can't just say Tank went in there and he performed. It's all about, oh, he gassed. He's not disciplined. He's linked up to Adrian Broner. The same criticism y'all began Deontay Wilder when he continued to go in there and knock people out. Y'all was the same people that was criticizing Canelo Alvarez when he popped for clenbuterol. But then he goes in there with Triple G and win decisively fighting the Mexican style. And y'all don't say anything. Y'all just leave it alone. Y'all pick and choose. When is the opportune time to put some controversy out here? When you should just be saying, okay, let me give him his adulations. Let me praise him for his good deed, good performance, and let's talk about it. Javante put on a hell of a show in Atlanta. Him and Gamboa, they went back and forth, man. You can't go in there and say Javante Tank Davis walked over your Yorkis Gamboa. No way, no how. For 38 years old, Gamboa did a very good job. Both of these individuals finished their opponents in the second round when they was in Baltimore. Then they linked up in another division and took it to the 12th round. And you can't give them a salute. I mean, seriously, you can't give these cats a salute. You can't give Tank a salute for staying to the game plan, because you're talking about a power puncher that went in there and landed some heavy, I'm talking about heavy artillery up top to Gamboa. And man, Gamboa, man, took it. He didn't eat it. I mean, some of them he ate, but goddamn it, he had a full stomach. I'm just being real. Like, he went down early, but you have to give Tank the credit for coming out there and being what Tank is. He's a savage, man. When he goes in for the kill, when he closes in on his opponent, when he has him hurt, he tries to give everybody what they're looking for and what his capabilities are. And that is straight up destruction. What's going on, Sims? Salute. They always trying to downplay Tank. It's all jealousy. I look at it like this, man. I try to give grown adults the benefit of the doubt. Seriously. I try to give grown adults the benefit of the doubt. This media business, being that globally, we have a populace of 1 billion, right? Billion plus, right? And then you have boxing with a small community of individuals. And we live in a technology era where social media gravitates more people to some channels that's willing to talk opposite of what they should be. So Tank wins, right? Tank wins. And then they want to sit up here and say, was Tank exposed? Can Tank beat Lomachenko? Can Tank really beat Teofimo Lopez? Is he ready for Leo Santa Cruz? Are you serious? Is he ready for Leo Santa Cruz, who's in a different weight division? Leo Santa Cruz, who is he knocking out? He went the distance with Abner Mares twice. Who is he knocking out? The one thing I can say about Leo Santa Cruz is absolutely he come to fight. He will put his head down and he would throw punches. The bad thing about doing that with Tank has excellent visual. His attentiveness while he's in the heat of battle is very, very keen. And for Leo Santa Cruz to believe he's going to be able to get off on Tank, even at 130, just to get off on him, just because his volume of punches, that's laughable. Any true boxing fan, to actually study a little bit more about the sport of boxing, you don't have to go that deep to understand that Leo Santa Cruz can come in here and want to fight Tank Davis. But guess what? Everybody's, just like Leonard Ellaby said, everybody's calling out Javante. Everybody wants Javante. You got Ryan Garcia calling him out before the fight just to get some clout to his name. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you have Gary Russell, which would be a good fight for Tank, but I seriously doubt that would happen. Different weight classes. But out of all the people that's calling him out, that would be a nice one to see. I mean, I'm talking about outside of Lomachenko. But I pick Gary Russell Jr. and Lomachenko in the same boat. Even though people want to criticize Gary Russell for only fighting once a year, he can fight. His family can fight. Very exciting to watch. Though he is absent all the time, him and Javante Tank Davis will be a solid match. We'll get to see true bona fide boxing technical mastery between two people that's been in the sport long enough to give each other a quality competitive bout. Real talk. That's real. Seriously. Now, you talking about Ryan Garcia. And Ryan Garcia isn't ready for Javante right now. I don't care how many videos he make off the reaction bag. He ain't ready for Javante. I said, like I said in the live, Vasily Lomachenko, I would definitely enjoy to see that fight. Seriously, that's Lomachenko. That's the one that's at the top pound for pound, right? That's the one who everybody choose to exacerbate his resume, right? And keep on saying he didn't lose to Salido. So guess what? You go in here against Javante Davis. Not too many people. If you victorious, not too many people gonna talk about your loss to Salido. They're gonna give you your credit and say, "See, we told you, Lomachenko's the best." But I don't buy it. I do not buy the fact that Lomachenko is the top pound for pound fighter. And even more, it solidifies what I've been mentioning about him and Gennady Golovkin for the longest of time right now. Gennady Golovkin, I'm going to leave him where he is because this is really focused on, the opponents that's potentially close enough to fight Javante. And that's Vasily Lomachenko if it ever happens. Now, what disturbs me most about Javante going here and putting on this performance the way he is that his coach said they can campaign at 135, 130. The hunt is on. And truly, they want Vasily Lomachenko. So why is media out here? Why is Dan Raphael sending a tweet out speaking so highly of being scrutinizing Javante Tank Davis' performance, saying he went in there against a 38-year-old. See, listen, you don't sell out the arena because Gamboa is 38 years old. They trying to pull a Luis Ortiz. You know what I'm saying? Every time he steps in there with Deontay Wilder, he's aged 15 years. He was 40 years old. This fight, the first time he fought Deontay, he was like 50. And now this fight, he close to 73. I mean, y'all just exaggerate for no damn reason. But when it comes down to Yurkis Gamboa and Dan Raphael saying he's a 38-year-old with a torn Achilles and past his prime, you just basically negated everything about that Olympian, former champion. You're basically saying he wasn't qualified to begin with. And that's not true because he put up a valiant effort in there with actually one of the biggest rising stars right now. You know what I'm saying? He put up a valiant effort, and you can't deny that man that Gamboa went in there and put up a valiant effort. For Dan Raphael to show his colors like that, it just doesn't make any sense because he's basically saying Javante Tank Davis, no way, no how, can step in the ring with Vasily Lomachenko. But you telling me Jorge Linares can, right? See, Javante hasn't even been knocked out before as a professional. All right, he's undefeated. Let's be clear. So you take Jorge Linares, has been stopped before he stepped in there with Vasily Lomachenko. But no one wants to talk about that. And then when you speak about, I believe it was the sixth round when Vasily turned the corner into a right hand and got sat down like a baby and then walked over to the far corner to regroup. No one chooses to talk about that. No, we don't want to talk about Pedraza going the distance with Vasily Lomachenko after Tank had already stopped him. And no one's really trying to include that. All I'm hearing is people want to find and put the tags on him that let's talk about the weigh-in. Let's talk about him not being disciplined for weigh-ins. Let's talk about his performance not being able to put away a gold medalist, a former world champion, and somebody who's been in the game and, respected, even though he's linked up to Crawford before Javante. He was linked up to Crawford. But now you need to take a little bit of time and understand, what do you want from boxing there, media? What do you want from boxing, man? Because this is that reason why a lot of these media, a lot of these boxers that's out here, they only stick with the ones that they understand and trust and have loyalty to for action. Because these same media people are sit up here and criticize Gervonta for winning his second division as a champion, then see him in person and you want an exclusive interview to talk to him so you can come back and put it on your channel. See, boxers, if you don't think they're turned on to the game, they pretty much understand what it is. I see it. Seriously, I see it. And I don't blame them one bit. I don't blame a boxer who wanna, squint an eye, turn their back to certain media, because the people that they have out here watching, them watchdogs, them rovers, them rabbits, they out here reading and watching who's out here jumping the fence, who has some critical to say every time they go in there and perform well. And then when it comes time for fight camp, you mad because you don't get invited, and then you get on here and dog the fighter out. You wanna sit up here and praise and show favor towards an opponent just because you wasn't able to get media coverage. I'm just disappointed in some of this media that's out here criticizing Gervonta the way they are. The man went in there and put on a show. Both fighters sold out the freaking State Farm Arena. It was super packed up in there. The crowd was on their feet, standing up in chairs at certain points in the fight. It was a very exciting matchup, man. Shout out to Showtime, PBC. You know what I'm saying? TGB Promotion, Mayweather Promotions. I enjoyed covering the card. But it's just crazy looking at some of my compeers out here making videos just for views. And what they should be talking about is how Gervonta moved up to another division and went in there and showed that he can go into the 12th round and still have turnover punching power. That's real, man. Y'all have a bad habit of criticizing these fighters that's showing you more than what their repertoire consists of. Y'all just want to goddamn break them down and break them down and break them down. And then when you see them in person, you want to show them love and goddamn say, oh, champ, you know what it is. You know, you did your thing out there. I mean, what y'all want, man? Y'all want controversy all the time for views. Y'all want gimmicks. Man, you know who you are. Man, y'all know who you are. Y'all sitting up here just straight up clowning like it's an everyday circus. Every time a big fight happens, y'all want to jump on here and go against the grain just for views. Instead of saying Gervonta went in there and performed excellent, he stopped his opponent. You want to say, well, is he overhyped? Did he get exposed? Is he good as they say he is? You wasn't even at the fight, a lot of y'all. You didn't even see the fight from the opening bell to the final round. And then you get on here and you just look at the scores. Look at the scores, man. They up here had Gamboa winning one round. And don't say it's because it was Floyd Mayweather Promotions. Look at the fight. Tell me the rounds that you thought Gamboa won. Just tell me that, because I saw the whole fight. Tell me what rounds you think Gamboa won, and we'll be good. Just let me know. And you wonder why a lot of people in boxing have a hard time, even the fighters, with a simple word, trust. Because you have to really pay attention and be assiduous enough to just do your research on what we have in the technology era, such as social media, on who's covering you, who you choose to have cover you. Because a lot of people, believe me, you know, I don't watch before I even started my channel, all that. I've watched some of these people. I've seen them make videos. I've seen them praise certain fighters without hesitation, without any compunction, right? And then I've seen them criticize other fighters that went in there and just laid it all on the line, man, like boxing champions and boxing contenders supposed to do. And they sit up here and act like, man, somebody, you know, y'all need to come jump on this thumbnail I got up here, this title. Because if they put Gervonta shows out in Atlanta, GA, winning the second division title. He showed out. He went in there and put on a dominating performance against former not a former Olympian, a gold medalist, and a former world champion. But y'all put those disclaimers up there that clickbait just so somebody can click on, and then you have all these freaking blown out scenarios, man, like a flat tire. And y'all want people to tune in while you sit up here and criticize the one that actually went in there and got the job done. You know what I'm saying? He actually went in there and got the job done. 2-division champion now, two-time WBA champion, and then he moves up to the lightweight division and wins the belt. So of course, there's bigger names out there for him. All right, of course it is. But just because you see Gamboa in a cast, what is that supposed to say exactly? Like, you see the man in a cast, unless you got the doctor's report, you don't know what it is. You don't know if it's a freaking he snapped his Achilles. You know how painful that gotta be for you not to have. You know what the terminology mean for Achilles heel? That's their Achilles heel. Do you understand what that mean? Do you understand the preface to that? When you're trying to say he went 10 rounds, however, and with a snapped Achilles heel, he was still able to balance himself. He was still able to refrain from grimacing. He was still able to load up. And here we go again. You have him saying, well, most of the punching power come from the feet. The balance, the power come from the feet. He wasn't able to land his more powerful, power punches to Gervonta Tank Davis because his Achilles was snapped in half. Are you stupid? Do you believe that the damage or the punches Gamboa was landing, that it was all because a snapped Achilles tendon, that he wasn't able to knock Gervonta out, who haven't even been on the canvas, man? You know what I'm saying? We haven't even seen him really face adversity on the ropes. Somebody buzzed him and had him hurt. But you're gonna say the reason why Gamboa wasn't able to hurt Gervonta, a fighter who hasn't been knocked out or knocked down. Gamboa has been to the canvas. You trying to say all of a sudden at 135, the reason why Gamboa wasn't able to do it against Gervonta because his Achilles tendon was snapped in half. Man, that's preposterous, man. I wish y'all would do better for real. Y'all coming up here clowning. Y'all up here clowning with no makeup. At least put your makeup on right before you jump on social media and jump on your YouTube channel with that title. Trying to put everything against Gervonta, who went in there as a power puncher, considered one of the second hardest hitters at 95%, I believe, to his knockouts, been smashing people, only been a distance one time. I believe that was a 6-rounder. And then he goes in here in front of 49,000+ and he stops his opponent the way it should have been, from a fighter who obviously was had to tap into the reserve tank. He was a little bit exhausted at times because he was putting all that power, but yet he wasn't turning his back. He wasn't running around the ring on the outside trying to get his breath, get his legs back, boring the crowd. I didn't hear anyone in there booing. I did not one time hear a boo. People booing the fight. I didn't hear it. And I was there. I didn't hear people booing the fight. I'm just keeping it a buck. Y'all need to get that understanding. Just because you have your favorite channels out here, I would just suggest you listen to more than one channel or read more than one article. Because some of these channels, man, all they want to do is put up controversy. just to go against the grain and get those individuals that's not really fans of that particular fighter. They just want to bring them on their channel, and somehow, some way, they get a loyal following. And when a fight work out the way it's supposed to, as Gervonta winning his title, right? They want to say the opposite. Well, guess what? Gervonta fought Gamboa, who had a snap Achilles tendon, and he still couldn't stop him any earlier than the 12th round. Now you want to include the man age, another Cuban, right? They love doing this to Cubans. I'm surprised they didn't say Gamboa was like, 50, 54 and a half. He's not really 38. He's 54 and a half years old. They did the same thing with Luis Ortiz, man. So Gamboa goes in there and he stays in the fight with Gervonta Davis. He's given both of them, giving the crowd what they came for. Certain rounds, man, the audience was on their seats. Security was going ballistic, trying to get them out the seats, because the people who paid for the seat behind them was like, man, what's going on here? We can't even see anything. You know what I'm saying? We had people trying to get closer to the ring with they freaking phones on. That's how exciting the fight was. You tell me what you think. Those of you that's tuned in, tell me what you think, man. I didn't turn the mic on to tell you what you might want to hear. I'm just telling you my opinion. Since I was in the building, I was covering the landscape for that fight. And I'm gonna tell you, as a headliner, it did what it needed to do. It set the crowd on fire. It had people talking. It had people paying attention. When Gervonta was landing those hard shots on Gamboa, people were standing up. The only ones were sitting down is because they was probably too tired to get up, because the person in front of them was too tall for them to look over. That's probably the only reason why they stayed in their seat and looked at the big screen that was over the top of the ring, man. You know what I'm saying? They said, I'm not trying to see it in that ring. I'll just look up top. I'm being absolutely serious, man. I know it's not going to stop. You're always going to have individuals that's more about, you know what? I don't really have to answer to the fighters. All I'm doing is just, doing podcasts on the screen. I'm not really, putting in the footwork. I'm not really mobile. So I really don't have to worry about linking up with any of these fighters that I criticize online. Seriously, a lot of people got that. They got their subscribers up. They're doing what they need to do. But enough with the gimmicks already. Just be yourself, man. Just hop on here and say what you got to say. All this gimmick and wearing a transparent costume and acting all weird and crazy, just to get people to tune in, yeah, I can do that. It's easy to do. But I'm telling you, for somebody who's at the fight, what I see out here on some of these channels is absolutely opposite of what happened. It's BS, really. It's like you're backstroking in a toilet ring that you love to be around all the time. You're talking that BS, and it just doesn't make any sense. It don't add up to the scorecards and everything when you're saying Gervonta is unprofessional. He's not taking boxing serious. The man went in there after cutting another pound. You know what I'm saying? He had to come back an hour later, weigh in 134.8 pounds. Then get his rest to go in there and fight 12 rounds against a very qualified lightweight contender, Olympian, former world champion, and Gamboa. And all you can say is, let's talk about him and Adrian Broner. Let's talk about Gervonta not taking boxing serious. How can you not take boxing serious and you're a 3-time world champion? Like, I'm just saying, how is that possible? If you're a 3-time world champion, how is that possible? You move up to a weight class and it's for a belt. And you venture into the 12th round for the first time. So from round 1 in between round 1 and round 11, you saw nothing to say that Javante was out here fighting famously. He was up here putting on a show like he always do. Gamboa was just, demonstrating that his chin wasn't that of Anthony Joshua. It wasn't made of hot confetti, wet confetti paper and shard glass. Because Gamboa took a lot of punches. Seriously, he took a lot of punches and stayed on his feet. So you don't need to credit that man for having that staying power, that durability. You know what I'm saying? That forward tough. Y'all need to quit, man. I just don't get it. It's not for me to get. It's not for me to sit up here and hear people every single time a specific fighter that may not be their favorite wins a bout. You come up with the opponent excuses for. Luis Ortiz, he's this. Well, Gamboa, he's 38 years old, snapped Achilles tendon, and Javante couldn't get him up out of there before the 12th round. And you trying to say he's ready for Vasily Lomachenko? Yes. Look who's given Vasily Lomachenko that work. Look who's caused that damage for Vasily Lomachenko. It haven't been fighters that you can say Davis Javante, Tank Davis. Real talk. Davis had to go in there and test himself. And Gamboa forced that upon him. He made it perfectly clear he wasn't there for an early night. You got to respect Gamboa for that. He was serious the whole week. He went in there and put on a show with his dance partner. He let the fight fans know that he's not a walkover. He's not a slouch, regardless of what happened between his link up with Terrence Crawford. He proved that he can stay in there, man, at a higher weight class. With a fighter who they saying one of the hardest punchers in boxing. So I have to sit up here and try to elaborate on some of the hate and disdain and criticism and unneeded scrutiny placed upon him for going in there, winning the title, and taking some punishment, but yet delivering punishment too. Checks were written and checks was cashed in that ring. It wasn't just go by and drop off an EBT card, get knocked out in the second round, and go home. And the crowd is up there booing and saying, I ain't never coming to Atlanta card again. I ain't never. No one really, if you looked at, the way the turn of events was, no one really has that mentality or that language to say, I'm not coming to another Atlanta boxing card because I wasn't really entertained. A lot of people walked up out of there entertained. They was happy. Seriously. They walked out of the State Farm Arena feeling good that they had came, spent their money, and got a show. Especially with Badu Jack and Jean Pascal. Man, come on, man. That fight was entertaining. It's back and forth. Even the Malik Hawkins and Darwin Price fight. Both of those individuals was throwing fire. They was unleashing the arsenal on one another. And if that fight wouldn't have stopped at five rounds because of the injury to Darwin Price and went the distance, potentially that could have been fight of the night. I mean, these two individuals, the Iceman and Price, was going at it. Seriously. Absolutely so. Very, very entertaining, man. You know what I'm saying? I can't say enough. I just wish Darwin Price, first time seeing him fight, 16-0. He's 16-1 now. But, hey, he came to get with it. Malik Hawkins came with it. And Darwin Price was landing some shots. Malik was eating them and returning his own. I mean, That was an exciting fight. I truly hated it ended. If you look at my page, the World Combat Sports on Facebook, I was able to snap the whole fight from the opening bell to the fifth round. Got some really good stills, man. Some really good frames of them doing action. Shout out to the Boxing Playhouse in the building. They was actually at the fight too. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Boxing Playhouse. Make sure you check them out and follow them. They just came in and said run it back. Look, to be honest, I don't think the people want to see Gervonta run it back with Yorkis Gamboa because he's going to be out with that injury. Check this out. He has allegedly a snapped Achilles tendon, right? So you look at Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is not even playing this season. So if he truly has a snapped Achilles tendon, then he's not going to be back for a while. But if he comes back, let's say April, how could it have been a snapped Achilles tendon? I mean, if it's that much, I think it would warrant a longer layoff to recovery. Don Dollar, what's good, man? Salute to you. Thanks for dropping in. Boxing Playhouse, what you thought about that? What you thought about that? The main event and Gamboa's performance. Anyone who's on here, drop your input on what you thought about the main event and how, certain individuals in the media are being extremely critical of Gervonta Tank Davis going into the 12th round with a 38-year-old gold medalist, former world champion, just because he wasn't able to finish him when he knocked him down the first time. I just want to hear the input. What do you have to say about that? Smash that like button, man. You know what it is. I appreciate the support from everyone. It's about to be a new year. So of course I had to get on here and talk about this spectacular fight card that happened in my backyard. Like I said earlier, shout out to PBC, Premier Boxing Championship, Showtime, for granting me access. Real talk. Shout out to John Orange. You know what it is. Appreciate the support, man. Real talk. I enjoyed myself being able to. It was a busy 3 days, but it was well worth it. It was well worth it to go in there and see a fight card. I know a lot of people, and I agree. Speaking with Tay Jones, he mentioned about Atlanta fighters not being on the card, and a lot of Atlanta fighters was so-called dropped or pulled or whatever the case may be. But next time we have a big card, hopefully we can have some local fighters here that's on these cards so they can get more exposure for themselves, man. Because there was a lot of Atlanta boxers that was in the building, but most of the fighters that was on the card, besides the Michael Harris, who improved to 2-0, he was like the only one. And see, pretty much, that's one of the fighters that helped Gervonta, spar at some time. He's have familiarity with the champ. So the Michael's coming up through the ranks and have that rapport with Gervonta Tank Davis, who co-signed that, Harris is going to be a future world champion. So you have that connect right there. You have that friendship, that respect as fighters. And don't make no mistake about it. The Michael Harris can fight. He can fight. So I did hear him say he looked forward to increasing his competition and everything else. You know what I'm saying? Don Dollar said, when you're the star, you get the good and the bad. Yeah, you get the good and the bad, man. But we live in a social media that a lot of people see what they see, and they can just as well get on here and speak on the good and how the performance was, because they claim to be boxing experts, right? So they get on here and talk just opposite. They'll first start off that the opponent, well, let's talk about Gamboa. He was so old, but he just came off a second round knockout of a true determined veteran, a tough veteran, Rocky Martinez. Like, he stopped him in the second round. He hit him with. Mark, look, Martinez dropped to the canvas. He sat on his behind, and he was like, "What? What just happened? Did this just happen to me? I was there. I seen it. Like Gamboa put the heat on Martinez. Finished the fight early. Both him and Tank finished the fight in 2 rounds when they was in Baltimore. Now they get up here and both of them go into the 12th round, man. And Gervonta for the first time showed that his power can turn over in the 12th round. I mean, in my eyes, that would be a plus. You know what I'm saying? That would be a plus to show people that if he was fatigued from going into the 12th round for the first time, he still can deliver knockout punching power. After sitting down, I'm talking about sitting down on some punches the entire fight. Seriously, he took some rounds off a little bit. He had to put it in neutral a little bit, a couple of rounds. But I'm telling you, the way he was going to the body, the way he was using his jab, the way he stopped using his jab, and then he was trying to be unpredictable and give Gamboa a different look, landing solid power shots to Gamboa who wouldn't go down. So you got to look at it this way. Instead of him getting frustrated and just saying, you know what, I'm just going to wait on Gamboa to make a move. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to wait on Gamboa to make a move so I can counter and make it a boring fight. Because if you look at the fight, some of the rounds begin, and Tank was running around the referee. He was running out and jogging around the referee to get the Gamboa. That's how much of an entertainer he was being yesterday. But you really don't hear people talking about that, man. It just doesn't make any sense. And it's not for me to sit up here and try to troubleshoot people's thought process, man, because it just doesn't make any sense. They'll be who they be, man. They'll sit up here and want to talk all this boxing. And the first thing they do to certain fighters that's not neighboring fighters, they want to be extremely critical of them. They want to tear them down. They want to sit up here and critique their performance, negative first and positive never. They don't have nothing good to say. And that's why fighters be treating media like crap unless they truly know you, unless they trust you, period. Don't think it's you all the time. If you're sitting out here doing what you're supposed to do, I don't sit up here and take it personal. Every fighter don't want to interview. They might not have that familiarity with who you are until they check you out, see what you got going on out here. But for the ones who just strictly behind the screen, fingertips resting on the phonetic keyboard, having just such a good old time socially, just typing keys in and then jumping on here, doing live videos with a title just the opposite of what Gervonta Tank Davis had did. Is he really that good? Is he really the cash cow? Did we see him get exposed? Is he this? Not. Gervonta closed out the show with a dominating knockout. He is now the 2 division champion. No, that really doesn't magnetize the viewership. You know what I'm saying? That really doesn't magnetize the viewership. Some people, they're simulated to the type negative first, because good bows before evil all the time. So you got people that their mentality won't allow them to type anything positive. They'll type something negative and get the people to come in and then see how many people that don't like a certain fighter to jump on board and start circulating, getting that carousel going of negativity. Long as they get the views up. That's what type of era we live in, man. You can say I'm wrong. It's all good, but I'm just not looking for that. Real talk. But it was a good fight card. For it to be in Atlanta, the biggest over 25 years, the biggest fight card in over 25 years. And I would say it was the biggest fight card. I would have to say that. Because you're talking about two champions, two former world champions stepping in the ring together. You know what I'm saying? Like two quality opponents in the 135-pound division. Two quality opponents. It wasn't no mistaking it. The matchmakers did a fine job. They went in there and found two quality opponents to come to a city who hasn't really had a big boxing match in over 25 years. And now you pick a 25-year-old young hitter out of Baltimore to come up here to Atlanta, a person who's been in Atlanta as a second home, but out of Baltimore. And for Atlanta fight fans who aren't really boxing astutes to say, you know what, we support him. He's from Baltimore, but he stays down here in Atlanta, sometimes. So we'll embrace him and we'll come out and support him. Seriously. That's how big it was. We haven't had a fight of this magnitude over 25 years, y'all. You have to give it up. But for the ones who really didn't show up to the fight or didn't care enough to just say, okay, I'm just going to sit here and watch the fight. If Gervonta, look, check this out. If Gervonta would have went in there and stopped Gamboa the first time he knocked him down, he would have got the same energy. Oh, Gamboa was old. He was old. He was over the hill. He wasn't the same self. He was past his prime. But then Gamboa go the distance. Oh, the reason why he didn't defeat Gervonta, he had a snapped Achilles tendon. He wasn't able to get the job done and sit down on his punches the way he should, because the power comes from the feet. Anybody who knows that, man, shut up, man, come on. You trying to tell me that staying there with a heavy hitter like Gervonta with a snapped Achilles tendon, you trying to tell me it's going to be as easy as lacing up a boot? You trying to tell me that Achilles tendon is going to stay solid for 10 rounds, moving around the ring, preventing yourself from going to sleep, from the second hardest puncher in the boxing, in the sport of boxing today? And you're trying to tell me when Achilles tendon, they used to slice Achilles tendons in half, so certain individuals, slaves and everything, wouldn't run out or whatever, punishment, whatever the case may be. And you're trying to tell me a boxer snaps an Achilles tendon when Kevin Durant plays basketball and he couldn't even continue. Yuriorkis Gamboa can go in a boxing match where you have to cut, you have to pivot, turn, reset, and be constantly moving. I don't believe his Achilles tendons were snapped in half. I just don't believe it. I don't believe it. I'm not saying I can't be wrong, but I just don't believe it, people. That's just my OP. I just don't believe it. And I'm not trying to put a finger on anything. I'm telling you from what I've seen, the way Gamboa was moving, everything. He might have tweaked something. You know what I'm saying? But he just fought. It's not like he hasn't been in the ring. It's not like he's coming off a year layoff. He fought on the undercard of when Gervonta Davis fought Ricardo Nunez. I mean, come on, man. They haven't been that long. So, he was all healthy. He was all good. He came down here. He looked in great shape. He was on the scales first, on weight. So I don't want to hear no injuries. I don't want to hear any excuses, because this was a fight where both fighters put in a valiant effort, man, for the boxing entertainment. I have to salute both Gervonta Davis and Yuriorkis Gamboa for real. But at the end of the day, I have to give Gervonta Davis mad props for going into the 12th round the way he did, and in the process of exhausting, low levels of his gas tank to recover in between rounds and still come out here and try to knock Gamboa out. And, I seen the comparisons. I seen some of these media outlets out here trying to compare him to Charlo. I'm going to tell you, point blank period. If you're trying to compare a power puncher and Gervonta Davis to Jamel Charlo, just because both of them was throwing heat early. I wouldn't do that. Don't put yourself in that position, because we've seen this over and over again from Jamel Charlo. We've seen it from his brother Jamal. But once again, Jamel Charlo got the job done, right? He ended up landing. He stayed the course, and he ended up landing on the fighter to choose to lose focus and showboat. Gervonta Davis is not a Jamel Charlo. When Gervonta missed a power shot, it's because that's what he chose to throw at the time. It's not like he's been throwing that the entire time. Like, you're talking about jabbing to the body, jabbing up top, switching up, throwing the hook. I mean, we ain't talking about predictability. Oh, we're just going to know he's just going to. When he gets his opponent hurt, yeah, he's trying to go in there and destroy and decapitate him. But I'm saying, it's no way you can sit up here and compare a Gervonta Davis to a Jamel Charlo and the way they come out and box. No, shawty. No, you can't do that. Two different fighters, two different styles. Believe that. Jamel Charlo had his pluses in the fight, and man, sometimes he looked extremely wild. I had to give it up to him. He did some strength and conditioning, because the shots that he was missing bad. And it didn't seem like he was too exhausted. It seemed like Jamel's cardio was pretty decent. But when Gervonta missed a power shot, that's because he chose to throw it at that time. And you can guarantee another power shot coming behind it. And usually that lands. If you look at the knockout, if you look at that knockout he did when he missed the uppercut and then he stepped back in, you really don't know what Gervonta's about to throw. Like, he threw the left uppercut and it missed. And then he closed in a little bit. And then he threw another shot. And that landed. And sat him down. I mean, it wasn't no wild frailing, left, right. Gervonta might throw a freaking uppercut and miss, and then throw the same uppercut again. And the percentage is high because he usually lands the second punch if he misses. Jamel Charlo was missing the first punch, the second punch, third punch. Tony Harrison was being elusive when he was focused. You have to give him props for that. Tony Harris was being extremely elusive, and he had very solid defense early on. And then he just lost track of everything and he got stopped. Travis said, so would Tank miss a heavy bag? So what you mean exactly, Travis? So would Tank miss a heavy bag? So would Tank miss a heavy bag as far as his punches goes? His power punches or what? I'm not sure. That's not all he works on is, power punches. Tank is, in my opinion, I can't speak for the fighter. All right. That's only the second time I actually seen him fight in person. And both times when he got his opponent hurt, he is very destructive. Like, he's very destructive. He has a gorilla on the back of his uniform. He's Gervonta Tank Davis, but he has a gorilla on the back of his uniform. And when he gets his opponent hurt, he's one of the most destructive and tenacious closers in the sport. Seriously. We're not talking about light punches when he gets his opponent hurt. We're talking about him being able to visually see where he's about to land that shot. He's visually aware. Like, some fighters, they don't really have a keen eye to see where their shots are going to land. They throw it because the opponent is close to them and they feel it's going to land. You know what I'm saying? Everybody approaches different. But what I can say is somewhat similar to Errol Spence. Errol Spence seen Sean Porter enough in the heat of the storm in the 11th round to hit him with that left hook, right? I'm saying the same thing about Gervonta. When Gervonta get close to his opponent, his eyes are very dialed in as to what and where he's going to throw his punches, especially when his opponent is hurt. It ain't no wild anything. It's like he has mad accuracy on those power shots. He don't really squander a lot of power shots, man, when he's trying to close it down. That's just my honest assessment, man. So what you mean, Travis, about, Mr. Heavy Bag? What you mean exactly? I'm not sure, man. I have to check it out. I'm not when you go through a different program, sometimes it may be a slight delay or whatever. It's according to what program you're using. But like you said, anything that's going from remote connection out, you might have some type of freaking delay or whatever the case may be. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. But what I can say is appreciate you tuning in, though. And everyone else that's in the building, smash the like button and be sure to subscribe to the channel. I got some more videos that's coming up. I'm waiting. Let me see if this other video is finished loading. Okay, it's done already. I have another video that of Leonard Ellaby, and then I have Floyd. I think his name is Jamil Hackett or Jakil Hackett. I'm gonna get his name right, but Floyd, I guess he just a newly signed fighter with Floyd. He seemed like a strong 140 pounder. He's big for 140 pounds, man. So I'm curious to see how he's going to do at that weight. You know what I'm saying? A lot of fighters look big for the weight class and everything. But like I said, Mike Tyson always said everybody has that plan. But I look forward to seeing him step in the square, man. He looks like a promising young talent that's has a big frame for his weight class. And he looks solid, man. From what I see, he looks solid. Like he ready to jump in the fray and test what he has against the other up and coming contenders, because you really have some risers that's up here in that weight division. Speaking of 140, somehow, some way, it's been back and forth. Terrence, hey, I have to start giving Errol Spence a little bit of credit on his Twitter game, man. Seriously, I had to give Errol Spence a little bit of credit, because the time he had his accident, man, just a couple of days, he's like, no broken bones, I'm a savage. He just sent a tweet out, and he sent it, I guess, to Terrence Crawford and whoever else. And he's like, they running from Errol Spence. I mean, that was just a savage dang tweet to put out there. And what I could accredit Errol Spence is doing, when he had his first interview with Brian Kenny, he said he's not taking an easy fight back, because we know he had some dental work he had to get done first, and he's talking about fighting in May. So that's close. That's a little bit outside of a half a year. You know what I'm saying? So is he looking to get back in the ring in May? I mean, and he don't want a soft touch, then I'm curious to see who that's going to be. Us as fight fans, us as freaking the audience, the masses that follow the sport of boxing and cover the sport, it'd be great if him and Terrence Crawford can finally fight, because I'm seeing a lot of Terrence Crawford, Sean Porter, and then you hear Terrence Crawford say that fight doesn't interest me, and people run with it. See, when Terrence Crawford said it doesn't really matter, or it's not important to me, people ran with it. But then you don't page to the other side to look up the video where Sean Porter reverberated those same words. He say, Terrence Crawford doesn't interest me. You know what I'm saying? Like they say, Bud Crawford is ducking and he's running and all that. How, man? How's Bud Crawford ducking, and he faced adversity in his last fight, and then he just dog walked Mean Machine? He just closed him out. He said, you know what? I ain't boxing no more. I'm gonna show you what I'm built like. He stayed in the pocket. Man, he just went up there and did what Terrence Crawford does, man. I'm speaking from what I've seen. Like, man, come on, man. Y'all want to, y'all don't know who to pick and choose. I don't get it, man. How can be Terrence Crawford is ducking Sean Porter, and the two are noted to be friends, and they just don't want to fight one another. Plus, the only person that's really trying to do something right now at this point in his career is the same thing Sean Porter did. Sean Porter fought Danny Garcia for the vacant WBC. And then he stepped up after he said that Errol Spence would be the easiest fight to make. He even didn't stick to his own word. He ended up fighting who? Ugas, whatever, however you pronounce his name, Yordenis Ugas. He didn't fight Errol Spence since it was the easiest fight. He fought another fighter, and then he went to Errol Spence. So just because it's an 11-round knockdown and considerably the fight of the year candidate, he lost the fight and gave up his his second championship. Sean Porter, IBF champion, WBC champion. Salute to him. But now Errol Spence has 2 belts. And the fight to make to unify would be either Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford or Errol Spence and Manny Pacquiao. Kelly Ross say, hey there, am I felt? Never did this before. Hey, welcome aboard. Salute to you. Not sure who you are. Can anyone see this comment? I see it. It's visible. So y'all drop y'all comments in here, man, on what I was talking about as far as my talking points. I just look at it like this, that Manny Pacquiao is not going to take a fight with Errol Spence. And it would be good if he was to take a fight with Terrence Crawford. But, you pick your poison with that. You want to fight Terrence Crawford, who can switch hit and give Manny Pacquiao a different look at his age? I just think Bud Crawford will give Manny Pacquiao problems from the opening. It won't be no Keith Thurman. Seriously, Manny Pacquiao will have some issues early on from Terrence Crawford. And I really, I don't want to say the cliche for the life of me. I just don't understand why people say this. But you have individuals steadily comparing Terrence Crawford's resume at welterweight to that of Errol Spence, who initially started boxing at the 154-pound division, and then he dropped down to 147. So now he's been campaigning for years at the welterweight division. How can you even compare a fight with Joseph Benavidez? You know what I'm saying? How can you compare the fights that Terrence Crawford has had from him taking a championship fight with Jeff Horn, who beat Manny Pacquiao, to who he fought after that? I mean, how can you compare resumes? Errol Spence has been campaigning at the welterweight division for quite some time now, right or wrong. Terrence Crawford is a 3-division champion. His resume in boxing supersedes or surpasses Errol Spence. I truly don't know why people are looking at the pound for pound list that has no criteria base. It's all based off favoritism, because we see the same fighters stand up there for no apparent reason, and they're not fighting nobody outside that is equal to them. They're not fighting any equals, anybody who's equal. They're fighting opponents that really don't get a name until the fight is announced, and they say so-and-so's Lomachenko is fighting this person. Okay. All right, cool. No one's really mentioning the Pedraza effect on how Gervonta closed them out, knocked them out, but yet Lomachenko went the distance. Well, all of a sudden Pedraza's old. He can't do it. It's crazy, man. That's not something I have to really get a headache about trying to figure out. But it would be good if Manny Pacquiao can fight Terrence Crawford. Because if Terrence Crawford goes, I would absolutely bet that Terrence Crawford take that WBA super, and then he would be the WBO and WBA. And then we can have a clash to abridge this unification for an undisputed champion in the welterweight division. But we're not going to get that, because Manny Pacquiao is going to hold on to that belt forever until he get another big name fight with the right opponent. Seriously. If Manny Pacquiao really wanted to get that huge payday he's looking for, you know what I'm saying? He would go against another champion. If Manny Pacquiao, 41 years old, can unify, I'm talking about with these younger fighters, if he can go out here and beat a Terrence Crawford, man, he just goes into the freaking stratosphere. Seriously. Manny Pacquiao is already in a elite class of his own, being an 8 division champion. But this just sends him into the orbit. Seriously. It just sends him into a whole nother stratosphere, man. I know he went in there and performed well against Keith Thurman. He did. But also I have to take in consideration that if he was to fight Terrence Crawford, he will be on VADA testing. Seriously. People seem to ignore that because they just want to give Manny that respect. But you can't ignore, you can't blame Canelo saying that, he said he ate some beef and then he popped fucking Buterol. And then you say, oh, he was dirty. But yet you have fighters that are demanded to stay in VADA testing, some of them. You have some that are signed up, some that are not. So I'm curious to see if we can potentially get that. Terrence Crawford's not mentioning it because I truly don't think he knows it can happen. Unfortunately, I don't want to mention that other side of the street type deal, but man, we're talking about the other side of the beltway for real. Like, no one is talking about Terrence Crawford versus Manny Pacquiao. Nobody. If Errol Spence was to come out and say he's about to face Manny Pacquiao, it would do really good numbers because you have the Manny Pacquiao boxing fan base that's unlike and unmatched by any other freaking ethnicity in the world. The Filipinos support and love Manny Pacquiao. They're going to buy the fight regardless. And then you have Errol Spence, who's built his fan base up even more. So if Errol Spence and Manny Pacquiao was the clash, we're talking about a 3-belt. Absolutely, Errol Spence wins that fight. If he goes in there against Terrence Crawford with the WBA, IBF, and WBC title, Terrence Crawford is the B-side, period. It's the B-side. And I don't think for 1 minute Terrence Crawford is afraid or timid or have any doubt to walk into Errol Spence's backyard and fight for the undisputed championship. It would be more so high energy just to the fact it's actually going down, to be honest. I think both fighters will be motivated. It will be a good press conference between them two. It won't be, it'll be somewhat similar to Jermell Charlo and Tony Harrison, but not as disrespectful. You know what I'm saying? I just think it'll do good, It'll be positive. Travis said, I think it's a good lesson, a preparation. He's leaving something out. I want him to do the Lomo thing. Yep, that would be a good fight. I think he can handle. I think he can handle that him. Okay, I mean, I don't really know. It seemed like Travis and Champ and Kelly Ross may know each other. I'm not sure, but I'm not understanding what you mean. I think he can handle that him. If you're talking about Manny Pacquiao handling Errol Spence Jr., I can tell you that Manny Pacquiao, being an 8 division champion, can handle a lot of things. He just went in there against Keith Thurman and was able to take his belt. He can handle it. But Errol Spence is a whole different dog in the fight. Errol Spence is a whole different fighter in the welterweight division. We've seen that with Sean Porter. You know what I'm saying? I would even like to see Sean Porter step in there and face Manny Pacquiao. Seriously. I would like to see that. I just think at Manny Pacquiao's age, he was good stylistically for the taking of that belt from Keith Thurman, who seemed like he really wasn't focused from his fight with Lopez. So he came in here for a pretty decent paycheck. He lost his belt, and we're not sure when he's going to return. But if you want to look at Sean Porter stepping in there, Pacquiao, it'd be a tough fight. Terrence Crawford, Errol Spence be a super tough fight for Manny Pacquiao. Super tough. I say either Terrence Crawford or Errol Spence fight Manny Pacquiao, he loses that belt. They just too strong. They just too good at what they do right now in the welterweight division for Manny Pacquiao to pull off an upset. I just don't see it in him, because even with Keith Thurman, he got tired in the later rounds. You know what I'm saying? Kelly Ross said, I think Tank can beat Lomo. And, I agree. I actually put it in my live there, Kelly. That's a solid point. I truly believe that Lomo, not being a knockout artist, he has a volume, and he has very highly respected agility and footwork and coordination that allows people to be enamored with who he is as a fighter, along with hand and technical dominance over his opponent. Lomachenko can move and allow his hands to be in rhythm. He's allowed the sweet signs to be presented as beautiful artwork when he's really getting it in. That's why people was enamored with Vasily Lomachenko. But make no mistake about it, he's not a knockout artist. He isn't. He isn't a knockout artist, man. So when you're going in there with Gervonta, who's pretty quick, who has power. I mean, you saw Lomachenko in there with Luke Campbell. Luke Campbell had to stay on his toes to keep up with Lomachenko so he wouldn't get caught. Even though Lomachenko ended up dropping him, Luke Campbell answered the final tick of the frame, and he went the distance with Lomachenko. And then you get Lomachenko vacated the WBC without even defending it. That kind of shreds some credibility for me as him being this ultimate superstar. If he was, we're talking about very, very close to potentially unifying his first division. I'm talking about undisputed. That's what I'm talking about. If you had the WBC, WBO, and the WBA, all you had to do was wait on the winner of the IBF between Richard Comey and Teofimo Lopez. After that, you get Teofimo Lopez, which everybody been wanting to see, and it makes for an epic fight in 2020. Undisputed lightweight champion. Nope. Lomachenko decided to become franchise champion, vacate the super title. Devin Haney gets it, defends it once, and come up with a shoulder injury. And somehow he's on recess. I've never actually heard that disclaimer before in my boxing knowledge of being a part of the sport for over 20 years. I just never had that understanding of recess being anything but one of the most happiest times I felt in elementary, being that I was going to go outside and actually do something outside of work. Put the homework down and go outside for recess. Devin Haney is in recess right now. So the word is supposedly you have Javier Fortuna and Luke Campbell. Luke Campbell gets a second chance, just like Sergey Derevyanchenko. Sergey Derevyanchenko got twice the opportunity to fight for the IBF title. So Luke Campbell going in here against Javier Fortuna. I hope he's ready, because depending on which Javier Fortuna shows up, he's going to have some issues. But make no mistake about it, Luke Campbell showed some grit. The man showed some boxing skills in there against Lomachenko. He had his bright moments, but it wasn't enough. It was almost like a low wattage bulb a bit. He had his flickering moments, but that was about it. He just didn't have enough to keep it bright, to shine those lights all the way to the finish line, so his scores can come back and he can pull off one of the biggest upsets. You know what I'm saying? He just didn't have that in him. But him facing Javier Fortuna, tall, I don't know. I mean, it's not like Javier Fortuna haven't been there already. He fought Robert Easter in the pocket, and Robert Easter was towering over Javier Fortuna. And he was really giving, Robert Easter the business at certain points in the fight. Real talk. So him facing Luke Campbell is not anybody new. He kind of had some issues with Adrian Granados. He decided to bail out that fight and go on the stretcher and act like he was freaking coming down with Ebola virus or something. I don't know. But man, he was outside standing around all cool, after the fight. I was at that fight. It was in Texas, man. It was just like, come on, Javier Fortuna. You're better than that, man. But Adrian Granados was a savage that day. That's the way he fights sometime. I know he got stopped by Danny Garcia, but man, Adrian Granados is a tough fighter, man. But Luke Campbell, Javier Fortuna fighting for the vacant WBC, if that's the case, that would be a tough one to pick because, like I said before, you can't just take Luke Campbell's height and say that Javier Fortuna is at a disadvantage because he was really in there, standing in the pocket with Robert Easter when they fought. It was a very entertaining fight, man. Travis said he also thinks a lot, and that makes opponent get tired. By the way, I'm not sure yet if Tank is a KO artist at 135. I never said he was a KO artist at 135. That's a good point you made because only one fight at 135 against an opponent like Gamboa, who went to almost to the back door. You know what I'm saying? He was at the back door of a championship fight and before he got stopped. But I will tell you this, not everybody has a chin in the 135-pound division. Not everybody is your Yorkis Gamboa in the 35-pound division. Seriously, not everyone has that steel, that staying power to take those punches from Tank. And we'll see, man. We'll see what happens. Travis said we would have to fight Devin to get back. Well, he would have to fight Devin to get it back. The one thing it is fair to say, he's the WBC champion. Devin, from what I understand, I talked to his people this past weekend and say he was the WBC champion, but it's unclear to me on how to correlate what the regulations and criteria is when you're placing a fighter who's supposed to fight a mandatory, right? When every other sanctioning body choose to enforce the mandatory, it's all about you being stripped if you're unable to defend that title. Devin Haney was injured. He's unable to face his mandatory. So therefore, it should have been that his title was stripped, not on recess. That doesn't make too much sense to me, does it? Like, when have we ever seen the WBA do that? Put a fighter on recess. I'm a little bit clueless to that. If you look at the ranking system, the WBC, WBA, IBF, and the WBO falls in last. We're not even talking about the IBO. The WBA, when they seek their mandatories, hey, that's what it is. Now, the WBC does what they want to do. We've seen that already. We've seen certain people supposed to be the WBC mandatory. For the WBC, I suppose you're supposed to face a mandatory at least once a year, whatever the case may be, in the WBC regulations. But for him to come up for his first mandatory and he's injured, I thought for sure he would be stripped. That's just me. The fight with Easter in Reading, Pennsylvania. I'm not making an accusation. Agreed. I think of Devin as the FedEx champion at the time. Dang. All right, like the wordplay. I like the wordplay. You know what I'm saying? He said he think Devin Haney was the FedEx champion. Anybody know what FedEx is? They known for their expeditiously shipping arrangements, dropping off a package and leaving. He's trying to say Devin Haney received the WBC belt and then it was gone. Very quick and efficient. And it's just wild when you have fighters right in front of you and you asking them questions and they might, he may have known he was injured already. He was just waiting for the results to come back and they don't tell you anything. Just like speaking to Jared Hurd wanted to make it seem like, what the rumblings was about, that he was moving up to 160. And then all the time at the MGM Grand, Like, man, this is the time for you to speak. And then people asking you, well, are you coming back to 154? You going to 160? And he's like, I can't really get into that right now. And blah, blah, blah. Man, come on, bro. Okay, so you can't talk about why you didn't take the immediate rematch with J Rock, right? We got it. But at least tell us if you stick into the same weight class or moving up. And then word has it, he's staying at 154. You could have told us that long time ago. Seriously. You could have told us that a long time ago. He's about to step back in the ring. It is what it is. He's a good guy. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he just got worked over by J Rock, who's absolutely shining like a diamond that night. He saw everything Jerry Hurt was throwing. Travis say when it must get there overnight. Well, it got there overnight, but you have to understand with FedEx, right? You know, you can't really say, well, once you receive it and you want to send it back, it has anything to do with FedEx. Devin Haney defended his title. I can see if he got the title and he had to face a mandatory right away. Like, he defended the title successfully. But then when it came down to facing the mandatory, everybody was like, damn, we thought he was going to be facing so-and-so. We would have liked Devin Haney to step up in the lightweight division and keep that belt, remain healthy, and potentially face Teofimo Lopez. You know, if Vasily Lomachenko wasn't willing to face Teofimo Lopez, which from what I'm hearing, they're probably going to be fighting April 2020. So if Lomachenko fights Lopez in April, Devin Haney is probably going to come back, and I'm not sure he's going to pull an Errol Spence and say, I'm not taking any soft touches. I'm going to fight somebody for real. So we'll see, man. I really don't know who Devin Haney can face that's a top-tier opponent, to get him some credibility. If he comes back and face the winner of Luke Campbell and Javier Fortuna, if that fight actually takes place, that'd be great. That'd be good. I'm telling you like this. If it's Luke Campbell, it's not going to be an easy fight for Devin. It's not going to be an easy fight for Devin Haney if he faces Luke Campbell, man. That dude is tall. He fights tall. He uses his jab well. He just have to come in there with a lot more dog if he want to step in there with Devin Haney. You know what I'm saying? He's going to have to be a bit more active, but make no mistake about it. Luke Campbell can be solid, very, very solid in matching up against Devin Haney. Absolutely, yes. And if he chooses to come back after that injury, that would be a good fight. Devin Haney versus Luke Campbell, yeah. I mean, I don't understand why I'm just kicking Javier Fortuna to the curb like he already lost or something. I'm just kind of putting him out to the side, abreast to my talking point because of his previous performances. Yeah, I'm not really knowing what Javier Fortuna we're going to get, but I can sit up here and assess off Luke Campbell's performance against Vasily Lomachenko that he kind of gained some fans from that fight. Really, no one knew about, who Luke Campbell was, an Olympian. You know what I'm saying? No one really knew about him. And when he was dropped in the 11th round, I believe, he still made it and finished the fight. So that's solid. You know what I'm saying? Very solid. "2020 is going to be great, man. Boxing is an annual sport. So we have a huge fight coming up in Vegas. I know a lot of y'all we have your picks in that one. Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury 2 for the rematch. It's going to be one of the biggest fights of the year. It's already sold out for what I understand. And why wouldn't it be? American public has gravitated to Tyson Fury like no other. They love to hear. Tyson Fury is one of the only people I know that can talk trash all the time and just be saying outlandish insults, and people love it. He's one of the only fighters that'll call another fighter a bum, a dosser, call him a pussy, all that. And people just sit up there and let it go in one ear, out the other, as if they didn't hear what he just said. People kind of treat it as if it's a song. Like, you don't really take it serious. It's just Tyson Fury just rattling on and on. That seems like the way the public perceives it. And then you have Deontay Wilder, who's also one of the best trash talkers. When they first had their press tour, I mean, that's the most trash talking I've seen in a while, man. It had to be times where both fighters were exhausted. Seriously, it was a lot of trash talking back and forth. But that fight in Vegas, I'm serious. You have Deontay Wilder fans over here in the U.S. His Wall Street is grown tremendously. And then you have Tyson Fury, who has a lot of fans over here in the U.S. That's all he's been doing, was walking the dog over here, man. And like every time you see him, he's on ESPN. He's over here, over there. He's talking on an interview, saying the same stuff over and over again. He just said that Deontay Wilder was scared to come to the press conference. I doubt it. I seriously doubt it. No one's scared of Tyson Fury. He already been in the square with you, man. You wasn't able to take his belt. Your father has reservations about you stepping in there for immediate rematch, so you didn't do it. So you went over there and fought Tom Schwartz, then Otto Whalen. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was a reason why you prolonged. And then you went there against Otto Whalen and ended up suffering a cut off a allegedly C-class fighter, B to C-class fighter. You know what I'm saying? It can't be that you was trying to put in rounds because you just returned to the ring. Because you've been in there with Sefa Safari, Francisco Pianetta, Tom Schwartz, Otto Whalen. You had all those, soft touches to get your body warmed up with Deontay in the middle. So you should be good to go. Travis, I remember him from Linares years back. Devin looked bad last fight. And yeah, Campbell would be a great fight with Devin. Absolutely. Luke Campbell, man, is not a slouch at all. He was really standing in there and giving Lomachenko a very competitive go, man, at the bout for that vacant WBC. Real talk. Kelly say, does T.O. beat Loma? Look, if you ever followed me, probably not. But I always, remain firm in saying that I believe that Lomachenko was a bit overrated. We're talking about a person who stayed double. He stayed overtime in the Olympics. So he was literally like a man facing boys in there, but he was able to earn a second gold medal. But when he attempted to come into boxing and be the first to earn a championship in just 2 fights, it wasn't like he is just stepping in here with the average amateur pedigree. He had an extensive amateur pedigree. So when it comes to Teofimo, who has shown that he's very agile, he's very talented. He looked a little bit bad in his fight before last. He said he had personal problems. But in my opinion, I believe Teofimo defeats Vasily Lomachenko. That's my take. I believe Teofimo is that guy who will be who possesses enough power, coordination, agility, and boxing technical skills to go in there and stay with Lomachenko. One thing I can say about Lomachenko, you will not get a Tony Harrison out of Teofimo Lopez, rather. Not Lomachenko, Teofimo Lopez. One thing I can say about the same with Lomachenko, you're not going to get a Tony Harrison. Both of those guys are going to stay focused until the final freaking bell when the fight stops. In the past, Teofimo has been known to showboat. But his showboating is not anything where he's looking off to the crowd and doing stuff that's just going to put him in a deleterious situation. He pretty much stays focused the entire time. Travis said he's becoming a bit of a clown show wrestling type trash talker. I mean, to be honest, that Travis, a lot of fight fans, like I was saying earlier about, some of these media that loves to put up controversy. It's almost like the script. Like you have a script to go off of. And that's somewhat like Tyson Fury is very, very good at. Like he just left a wrestling match. He went up against Braun Strowman. And he actually beat Braun Strowman, who is one of the biggest dudes in wrestling entertainment. So Tyson Fury gets cut by Otto Whalen enough to get stitches and allow that to heal, goes ahead and competes in wrestling entertainment, gains some more fans, and now he's headed back February 22nd to face Deontay Wilder. Hey, you have to give it up for Tyson Fury. How can he go in there and train a little bit of wrestling? I mean, we seen Floyd Mayweather, even that, he was seriously outsized. But Tyson Fury is a big dude, man. He went in there with a guy who was equal his height. A little bit short on the stature, but Tyson Fury ain't a small dude. And he was able to go in there and put on a show with wrestling entertainment. When Floyd Mayweather stepped in there, he was going up against the Big Show, 400, 500 pounds. It's no way Floyd would have dropped the Big Show and put on some brass knuckles and punched him and won that. Man, come on, man. Floyd looked like a toddler in there against the Big Show. I mean, the acting that Floyd put on, man, it was amazing. It was funny as I don't know what, man. The faces he was making, being that the Big Show was slapping him. I mean, it was good acting, man, straight up. But, back to Tyson Fury, he has that adaptable personality that he can cross over the wrestling entertainment and he can wow the crowd. You know what I'm saying? He's able to do that. It's just funny. But I don't think he's winning that fight at all, the rematch. Seriously. The first time people saying technical skills and everything, he's way better. He supersedes that of Deontay Wilder. And, he went in there, he couldn't get it done. He did have his moments, but if you're fighting a fighter who you say you're basically saying, and you're standing firm by your word that he doesn't have nothing but a right hand, then therefore you should have found an opening to go in there and close out the fight. You could have did the old Klitschko and make the fight extremely boring, but you couldn't get in close enough because you were scared to get touched up by that right hand. So you kind of stayed on the outside with your irky jerkiness and try to, get some points and put away some rounds. And then you end up getting touched up twice and hit the canvas. So it's not as easy as people think to negate Deontay Wilder's ring IQ. It's not as easy as you think when you possess that type of power and being the hardest hitter in boxing. Not for boxers, not for your compeers to respect it. They respect the punching power. Hell, Ortiz has seen it and felt it twice. Now, granted, it's parts in both bouts that he don't remember. Seriously, it's parts in both bouts that Luis Ortiz, if he asks him, no say, amigo, no say. I mean, you're gonna ask King Kong Ortiz like, hey, walk us through, what was going on when you got up from that knockdown in your last fight. I mean, what do you remember? No, remember. He's not going to remember being touched up because when Deontay landed that right hand and the sweat came off the backside of Luis Ortiz's cranial cap, it seemed like that was his soul being knocked out of his body. It was unreal. It was unreal the way it looked and sounded. I was looking through a camera at the time, but yet I was able to see it up close and then I heard it. So it was just extra freaking suspense when you seen that. But it's gonna be great, man. Travis said he'll bring some of the fans over to boxing, and that's a good thing. Hey, Um, Tyson Fury going over there to the WWE. And yeah, I remember when he wrestled Vince McMahon or whatever. I mean, that was good times. There's a lot of people that's taking up that role to go over there to the WWF at the time before they had the lawsuit and was forced to change to the WWE. Either way, it survived. You know what I'm saying? Either way, it survived. You have to understand it's always those certain individuals that are contributing to organization surviving. For them to bring over Tyson Fury in between boxing matches after getting cut real bad by Otto Whalen, for him to go to the WWE and train the way he did, and to go in there with the script and know how to put on a wrestling match is amazing. Seriously, it's amazing. That's one thing I like Tyson Fury. I'm very critical of Anthony Joshua, and people think it's a US UK. It's not. The only people that's being immature and trying to make it a hate thing is the ones that just don't want you talking anything about the UK fighters. If UK fighters are in boxing, they're free game. And the one that I'm very critical about, the two, is Anthony Joshua and Dillian White. Derek Chisora, he gives you what Derek Chisora gives you. He's war. He goes in there. Either he's going to do the knocking out or he's going to get knocked out. But he's going to go in there and throw hands, just like he did with Dillian White. Him and Dillian White has the same mentality. My lower level of respect for Anthony Joshua, it goes without saying. I truly believe that he doesn't want to step in there with the hardest hitter in boxing, because he believes, he even said himself, anybody who I wanted to win and take the titles from me, it was Andy Ruiz. I didn't want anybody else. Who says that? Why would you want why would you want someone to be the recipient of your titles? Why would you even give anyone your titles to begin with while you're doing the presser? Everything about his mentality, his vibe, and everything was just suspect to me. Seriously. The way he came out to the ring and they're up there rubbing his neck down for the cameras to make it seem like, hey, something's going on here. So everybody talk about, and then he went in there and get clipped. He truly don't want to face Deontay Wilder, man. I don't know how many groups that was, kicking the block button or these soft admins that want to support one fighter. Guess what? I didn't see any Anthony Joshua fans when he lost his titles up here praising him for his return, saying he's going to come back and win the titles. They was quiet as kept. You didn't really hear none of them. True fans. If you're a true fan, a diehard fan of a specific fighter, you ride with them in the light and in the darkness. And when Anthony Joshua lost those belts, man, these social media groups was quiet as I don't know what. They was talking about everybody except Anthony Joshua. Now that he's lost that weight, he's not going around here trying to look like a model and a boxer. He had to lose all that muscle mass to go back in there and put on his running shoes against a snicker freaking connoisseur as Andy Ruiz. Andy Ruiz, weeks earlier was shown on Facebook that he was losing weight. He's coming in best shape. Lies. And then he coming there, 15 pounds heavier than he did the first time? Just lies, man. It was all a lie. He's saying the party got the best of him and all that. But guess what? Jarrell Miller has fought well over 300 pounds before. And he never looked like Andy Ruiz. I'm talking about his lethargicness, standing center. So Anthony Joshua land the jab. Just staying right within distance to allow Anthony Joshua to look great for him, for his rematch in Saudi Arabia. That's all freaking Andy Ruiz did. You trying to tell me that Andy Ruiz that fought Joseph Parker, the one that fought Anthony Joshua the first time around, couldn't have let his hands go with an extra 15 pounds. Man, that's bull. That's BS and you know it, man. Kid, what's good? What's good? Salute. Thanks for dropping in, man. What they do, good people. Listen to the homie dope content. They appreciate it, man. Thanks for dropping in. You know what it is. All of you that's tuned in, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. I appreciate it. World Combat Sports on deck. Um, that's what it is, man. That's the why, I don't have that respect for Joshua, because of the negotiation process that they kept dangling the carrot over and over again in 2018 with Deontay Wilder and his team, JD's and Shelly Finkel and all them, about trying to make that fight. And if, just say for instance, you and I are making a deal, all right, and I'm allowing everybody else to have a percentage of, growing a group on here, but yet I'm gonna give you. I said, well, I'm not gonna give you a percentage. I'm just gonna give you a flat fee of $4 a month, even though your potential earnings may be $25 to $30 a month. I'm just gonna give you that flat fee, and then you might ask, well, why? That's just because that's what I want to do, because I don't know how much money you made a month. You can't prove to me you made more than $5. So I'm just going to give you $5 flat fee. And then you tell me, well, the potential earnings is way more than that. Well, it's my channel. That's the kind of feeling I get when you talk about a 12 million flat fee for a fight that potentially could have made over 50 million. Easy. And then you say, well, we're going to give him a bit more. Okay, we're going to give him a bit more the next time. We raised it up to 15 million flat fee. So basically what you're saying, you are extracting the top end proceeds from a fighter that has to feed his family just like Joshua does. Then it came even better when Joshua jumped on social media without permission and said, you give me 50 million, I'll fight you tomorrow. Okay, the 50 million, it's a lot of speculation on whether 50 million was and all that, but the 50 million was granted. And then he gets on social media and say, I'm not going to sell my soul or the belts for 50 million. Well, hell, I'm pretty sure everybody that's tuned in right now, they'll say, I would give me 50 million. You trying to tell me put it into a secure account, and that's not even my guarantee. I mean, that's not even my cap. That's my guarantee money. I'm getting 50 million up front, and then I get the back end percentage. All I got to do is come to the U.S. to fight. No way Hearns was going to allow that to happen, because Joshua potentially could have made 60 something million off that fight, 70 million. If Deontay just would have took the 12 million or 15 million flat fee, Joshua could have made another 10 or 15 million, whatever the case. Okay. I don't know all the numbers, but all I'm saying is all you had to do was come over to the States and fight before the end of 2018. Well, Hearns shut that down. And you know why he shut it down? Because if Joshua would have made that much money, they wouldn't have been able to make that DAZN deal. The one that supposedly was 1 billion, and people don't, refuse to do their research. It was contingent on a 2-year basis, supposedly. All right, it sounds good, but it's very much contingent for them to carry on with it. And also they signed Joshua to a Wembley deal, I guess a 2-fight Wembley deal worth what, 70, 80 million or whatever he signed up for. I don't really get into numbers. I don't care. I just worry about the boxing performance and the fighter. So, Joshua stepped in Wembley Stadium September 22nd last year and fought Alexander Povetkin and then sell it out. But yet his gullible, casual fans was saying that Joshua is selling out arenas. He's the cash cow. He's the best boxer in the sport. But yet he wouldn't face Deontay Wilder, though, the other champion that would have brought him closer to becoming undisputed. Travis said, "Yeah, I don't get in any of the boxing arguments. The whole thing looks sponsor funded to me, especially the racial agitation channels. Hearn made the offer correct. I think it was a done deal until Finkel asked how much was Joshua getting. Then Shelley said, walk away. It wasn't the fact that a team is going to ask and inquire about how much a fighter is getting. That shouldn't be a deterrent. And you know, once again, that's a solid point you made, Travis. I mean, that is one of the areas of conversation that was mentioned in that negotiation process. But just because Shelley Finkel asked how much was Joshua getting, why would that be a deterrent? Why the secrecy? It shouldn't have been no secrecy to it. We're talking about negotiating for one of the biggest boxing matches potentially could have happened in 2018 and in boxing heavyweight division in history. But you trying to tell me when they were sending the contract, I mean, when they was calling Eddie Hearns in the contract, when they received the contract, the same one that they came over to NYC and said that Joshua up here saying that, well, guess what? I'm going to sign this contract when I get over there. How are you going to sign a contract when both sides haven't really agreed on any terms? And then furthermore, they was trying to get in contact with Eddie Hearns about some fine details on the contract that was left out, and they couldn't get in contact with him before the deadline. So once the deadline expired, they said, well, we didn't hear anything. He didn't sign the contract. If the contract wasn't beneficial in a healthy way for both fighters, why would Deontay's team sign the contract? Why? That's crazy. Why would he sign the contract? If Shelley Finkel asking how much is Joshua getting, what's wrong with that? Because isn't the whole plan is to make sure you're in the best interest of your fighter? I'm pretty sure that's what Shelley Finkel was doing. I'm pretty sure that's what JD's was doing. And I'm sure positive Deontay wanted to ensure that he's fighting for his family. He always fought for a common cause. So why would he go ahead and say, you know what, just give me the 15 million flat fee? You know what I'm saying? I don't care about anything else. That's basically what he said in a nutshell. He was willing to, you know, go into the fight, give 50 million up and make the fight happen. That's what Joshua requested, because all he wanted was the belt, become undisputed. He wanted all the belts. And they made a point to say, nope, we can't do that, because it would have absolutely shut down the zone deal, and it would have shut down that Wembley deal that made no sense at all. Because the second fight deal that was on the Wembley deal was in April of 2019. That went by, and nobody even talked about it. You notice that? No one even talked about that date. We was all hoping that Deontay Wilder, but there's no way Deontay Wilder could have fought April 13th, because it was nowhere close to being settled. And plus, he had a fight. That's real. Travis said, for myself, anytime someone gives a $50 million deal, I'm all in. For real. It don't matter where you ranked. They give you 50 million, that's guaranteed. That 50 million is guaranteed to you. Funds are approved. And you sit up here and you know you're going to get some back end money too. Who wouldn't take that deal? Bruce Lee in the building. Salute to you, man. Like the name. Fury is good, but a clown. Wilder was patient with Ortiz because of Fury fight coming up. Trying not to give too much. Hey, we on the same melody with that, man. Goddamn, take that banjo out and goddamn rip it one more time, man. That's a solid comment, for real. You know, a lot of people believe and they want to assume, as always, that, you know, Deontay went in there and he was having a hard time. He was waiting. It was obviously he was waiting, because a lot of people came in to see that fight. And for him to go in there with all the criticism of Luis Ortiz being 66 years old, about to turn 67 on fight night, you know what I'm saying? A lot of people was just being extremely critical. He went in there and did what he had to do. He wasn't burning no unnecessary energy. He did what he had to do, man. He paced. He really didn't dig in and sit down on any of his shots. And when he throws his power shots, you really can't tell him, if he's sitting down or not. Like when it comes and checks in, it's checking in. And when it was time to close out Ortiz, he turned him. And then JD said he threw a blind too, which he popped the freaking left hand out there to get a reaction out of Ortiz, and then came straight down with the right hand and knocked the soul out of Ortiz. But that's a very good point there, Lee. Seriously. Travis said, I remember fighting for $300 for 4 rounds. I believe it. It's a story in itself for those fighters that's on a regional level and what they go through. No wonder they have such bad attitudes once they start to make it to the big times, because it's a lot that goes down if you don't have a manager, a quality manager, one that that's there for your best interest and not trying to say, okay, Travis making 300, but you got to give me half of that. And then you give half to that person, and then you got to pay your team. You might walk out of there with $72. You know what I'm saying? If you're lucky. It's a lot of discrepancies or disheartening events that happens on a regional level with fighters who go in there and in some tough battles, man. Some of these fighters don't even get paid on fight night. They go in there and go through a battle, take the gloves off, wraps, and be told, hey, well, you can't get your money until a week or 2 from now. So they came in there hoping they was going to get that paycheck, and then they're not getting paid the 2 weeks out. And hopefully, like some didn't get paid at all. You know what I'm saying? Some promoters don't make the money they thought they was going to make, and they don't get paid on time, man. It's bad. It's a dirty game. Remember that. It's a dirty game. It's a method to the madness that you have to take as media. It's a lot that you have to understand, man. Like it's very few selective media out here that used to be boxers. Seriously, it's very select few of media that was actually boxers. A lot of media is individuals who chose to be fans of the sport, who have some common knowledge of the sport, who have family or been around the sport enough to the point where they can speak on it on a respectful level. You know what I'm saying? I've been following boxing and MMA, grappling, for the longest of time. You know what I'm saying? And I actually go to these tournaments, especially grappling, to learn. I go to grappling tournaments to learn what I'm seeing so I can speak on it. So I can know when they actually setting their opponent up, or they're thinking and setting traps for their opponent while working off their back or while they're in top position. I go there for education, because grappling is a hard sport to gaze. Boxing, you can learn a lot better than you can mixed martial arts. Travis say the Blue Horizon in Philly, we all got that. 750 to 1300, 6 rounds. That's pretty good. You talking about 1300 for 6 rounds. That's somewhat, I see some of these fighters going 6 rounds and they getting way less. That's just facts. They might get around the 700 range. But I can write a whole book on what I've seen thus far. Seriously, that's just being absolutely honest. What I've seen, what I travel. I've been around the block in a short period of time, man, on these regional cards, covering these fighters on the regional level, because you never forget about the grassroots. You look out for these fighters on the grassroots, because that's where all the diamonds are shining in the grass, man. And they're only getting better and better. And then their Wall Street start to rise. They get more notoriety. They start getting better fights. That's why I respect, Teofimo Lopez, man. His dad has always kept the same energy about his son being champion at 15 fights. He's gonna be world champion. He's gonna be world champion. So now he's the IBF lightweight champion. Now it's up to them to potentially face for a unification bout. Like I said earlier, it would have been great if he could face Vasily Lomachenko in April 2020 for the entire unification of the lightweight division. Because to be honest, I know for a fact Teofimo Lopez is not planning on staying at the lightweight division for a long period of time. That's facts. Their entire plan is to move up to 140, junior welterweight. Travis said, yeah, but this was the 80s. Okay. That stuff still happens today. It's boxing. It's not like the workforce. Like, I know a lot of regulations and a lackadaisical a lot of oversight back then, and fighters coming from where they came from, a lack of supervision on, fighters getting their hand wrapped, whatever, picking opponents, the referee, fighters taking dives. A lot has changed over time. You know what I'm saying? I think it would be great for championship fights to be 15 rounds, but somehow the era has softened up a little bit and felt that 15 rounds was just too dangerous to a fighter's health, especially if you was in there with a fighter who could take a punch and a puncher that could deliver on and on and on. So really, there's no real winner except the punishment is being delegated and the recipient is going above and beyond to try to stay in the fight and taking extreme punishment. It'd be good if championship fights can be 15 rounds. But we're in an era right now where, you had Dadashev pass away. We had Centillion, I believe his name was. We had a Patrick Day just passed away, young fighter. Dadashev over here fighting for his family, trained with Buddy McGirt, known for convincing him, no, I got to stop the fight. Just listen to me. Just listen to me. Just listen to me. I just have to stop the fight. You're taking too much. You're just taking too much punishment. And Buddy McGirt is a good dude. He was doing it for his best interest, and it still wasn't quick enough. He stopped the fight, and he ended up going into a coma, falling out, headed back to the dressing room. We're talking about Buddy McGirt, man. You know what he saw. So imagine if we had championship fights at 15 rounds. I mean, it'll be a lot of fighters in this era, this point in time, in my opinion, will be surrendering because the brain is simulated. Just think about if the championship fights wasn't 12 rounds, right? They was 15 rounds. The mindset in training camp is to go 15 rounds. That's the mindset. And what about the regular fights? Let's just say the regular fights, man, was 12 rounds. We're not talking about the 6 to 8 rounds. I'm talking about the regular fights. We're talking about what if they was just on average 12 rounds? It'll be a bit wild, I think. But we got 12 round fights. It is what it is. And unfortunately, these individuals that passed away recently, salute to them, man, for warriors or fighting in one of the hardest combat sports in the world. But then again, they always say that you chose to fight. You chose to glove up. You chose this sport. I mean, we're talking about an open-ended sport that has a turnstile that accepts anybody and everybody that can be a convicted felon. You can do just about anything except being on the run for murder. And you can come into boxing, learn the trade, go in there and make some money and potentially become great at what you do and make millions and submit your name in the boxing annals. And look, with the boxing annals, it's not going to say so-and-so was a rapist. It's going to just highlight your skills as a fighter. That's all it's going to do. It's not going to say you was convicted of shooting somebody in the head, kicking somebody in the groin just because they didn't give you a stick of bubble gum. You know what I'm saying? It's not going to give you that. It's just going to say so and so was just world champion here at this time. He was a lineal. He was this, that, and the other. They're going to give you your accolades. They're not going to say you served time in the penitentiary, in prison, jail, or you was once locked up for domestic violence. None of that. Travis said, "I'll be a millionaire." I'm shocked at the person nowadays. I still remember Holmes versus Coney getting 10 million, and that was the biggest purse at that time. Yeah, man. You know, like that fight, finding out, talking to Coney in person. You know, a lot of that fight was hyped up to be black against white and make it racist to sell the fight. And Coney is far from that person. Very down to earth, funny dude. I'm talking about he had the Vegas inside the MGM Grand. He was out there just having, oh man, he was up there with some people, man, and he was telling this guy, "Hit me on the chin. I know you want to hit me on the chin. Go ahead. I'll give you a free one. Come on." And it was just funny. He knew the guys, but they was playing around, man. They wasn't even intoxicated either, and they was in the middle of the MGM in the hallway. And Cooney, man, I started to take out my phone, but I just didn't want to mess it up. But he was like, "Come on, I'll give you a free one. Right on the chin. Come on, you can do it." And it was just funny as on the way. And then, by the way, Pete Rose was over there in the memorabilia shop doing interviews. So in order for you to get an interview with Pete Rose, you had to buy some of his memorabilia, a bat, a glove, a shirt, or whatever. I was tempted, man. Seriously, I was tempted, man. I just wish they'd lift the restriction out of him, man, and put him in the, let him do something, man. I think he served what he had to. That's it. How long does the man have to suffer? How long, man? Travis said, "I'll be a millionaire in the purse era." 12 rounds came from Massini versus Kim. Yeah, unfortunately, Kim lost his life, man. And imagine Kim losing his life back then to these fighters losing their life today. Boxing, they always say that the cranial cap, the brain, isn't meant to receive impact on a consistent basis. And you try to tell the casuals, right, the analytics of what boxing's supposed to be. Boxing allows an individual that is stepping into the ring to protect their bone structure. That's exactly what boxing is about. You wear wraps on your hands and gloves to protect your hands, so you won't have to be out of boxing forever and a day. Now, some boxers still go in there and break their hands, but the glove is to protect. That's why you see people, they're sparring with 12 ounces, 16. It's much more a bigger glove than the one you compete in. And then it's even separate ounces that you compete with a certain weight class from 8 ounces to 10 ounces, but the whole entire method to the madness is for those gloves to protect your hand. And still, when you're talking about a glove touching the brain and jolting it over and over again in sparring and in fighting, is serious damage. And Kim losing his life affected Mancini something fierce. You know what I'm saying? It did, man. It did. That's just like Sugar Ray Robinson stepping in there and he said he had a dream not to fight. He had a dream not to fight, and they convinced him, "No, it's just a dream. You good. You good." He went in there and dude lost his life. And he was in the process of just stepping in there making money for his mom to buy her a house. So what did Sugar Ray Robinson do? Sugar Ray Robinson took his purse for 4 fights after that and went and gave it to the man's mother to purchase her home. Facts, people. I don't know why people be slipping, man. Make sure you follow World Combat Sports, man. Come on, respect the game, man. I respect it. Pass the word, subscribe button, man. I'm out here. And I like to come in here and get respectful dialogue and hear your opinions as fans. But I ain't no tyro to this sport. I do as much research as I possibly can on multiple genres of sports. I ain't trying to be the best at anything because my actions will speak for themselves. I ain't trying to be the best at nothing. I'm just going out here loving what I do and covering the sport. That's it. Travis said two great guys. Jerry and Larry became friends. Absolutely, man. I'm telling you, Cooney is a funny dude, man. And look, I'm 6'3", and he's taller than me, and he's still in good shape. He's older than me too. I'm like, dang, he must have been a terror to deal with. And then Larry Holmes having that jab of his. Some of these fighters, man, they look very short on TV. I ain't gonna lie. A lot of these fighters look short on TV, man. You see them in person, you're like, God damn, I didn't know you was that tall. Like, man, what is going on? Like Jerry Cooney, man, he's taller than me. I was like, okay. And then I'm sitting up here looking at Annie Kowalski, right? And I'm thinking this guy's a short, chubby dude like Andy Ruiz. Until I see him at the freaking Wilder Ortiz fight. I was like, what? This dude is actually taller than me. And he's not really as chubby and round. You know what I'm saying? Like I thought he was looking at him fight on TV. He actually, man, he's a cool cat, man. And then it's crazy because when we was talking to him, Charles Martin was standing maybe 2 feet to my left, a person who he was in there with. And Charles Martin is like 6'7". You know what I'm saying? 6'7". It's crazy looking at some of these fighters, man. And you see him on TV, man, it don't do any justice until you see him in person. It's like, dang, so-and-so's big, so-and-so's tall. Lennox Lewis, Deontay Wilder, legitimate 6'7". They tall. Lennox Lewis, you can tell why he was who he was when he was fighting. He has the size, he has the reach, the height, and he has the dog and the heart in him. The same thing Deontay Wilder has. You look at these dudes, they have the frame structure for the heavyweight division. And, Deontay can actually put on some weight. And even when Lennox Lewis is retired, he still maintained great physical conditioning. He's watched his weight, and you can tell he can still probably throw down if he had to. We sparred with tough wear horsehair gloves. Yeah, I understand that, Travis. Speaking of horsehair, wasn't that like one of the reasons Panama Lewis got banned from the sport? He removed a dime. What I forgot the exact amount of cushioning from the knuckle. He removed a portion from each knuckle, placement in the glove. And also he put like a hole in the palm of the glove so his fighter, Resto, can use it to rub against the face of Billy. So that ended up messing up his eyes and stuff like that. Old boy took a beating that day. Plus he had a scratch. He thought he would never box again from what Panama Lewis did, being able to, to scratch his opponent's eyes. And not until Resto walk over there, I guess the shake the hand of Billy's dad, they touched his glove and say, man, there's barely any padding in here. And then he asked the commission to confiscate the gloves to check him out for an investigation. So the commission, left him in the back of the car. And Panama Lewis tried to say that the gloves had been tampered with while they was in the back of the car. And they say, no, didn't nobody tamper with these gloves except you. So they end up being sent to prison for that. Resto went to prison. Panama Lewis went to prison. Real talk. Like they banned Panama Lewis for life. And make it so bad, Resto, he wasn't even an undefeated fighter, but Billy was. And then Billy ended up having a real bad accident. When they saying it could have been he was trying to kill himself. They wasn't for sure. And then a lot of people thought it was because of his condition, being depressed and everything from having that kind of ruin his boxing career. You know what I'm saying? That was his last fight because his eye was so jacked up he couldn't box again, and it really destroyed him. So he had a real bad accident and crashed his car into a pillar or something like that. It's a crazy story, man. Y'all have to read that story about Panama Lewis, man, being banned from boxing for life. Because he had bet money on that his fighter to win. That's how dirty he was. He was doing like the Pete Rose thing, like he was betting money, and in that process of betting money, he decided to add some cheating to it by removing the padding from the glove and also putting a hole in the palm of the glove so he can have an extra layer of damage when he's in close and rubbing that part of the glove over his opponent's face to the point where it ended up scratching, I don't know which one, the cornea, pupil, or whatever, the eye of Billy, and caused him not to be able to box anymore. Travis said, yep, 4 ounces. So from 8-ounce gloves, grabbed his glove. I saw that live. Yep. That's amazing. You was back there when that happened, man. That's crazy. I need to see Ortiz versus AJ. AJ is recycling these same guys with a bogus heavyweight ranking. Povetkin, Parker, White, etc. Which of these fighters beat Fury or Ortiz, even Brazil? Well, that matchup where you mentioned Bruce Lee with Ortiz or AJ, I would definitely like to see that, because Ortiz is known, to take a shot pretty good. Like he got up from a Deontay Wilder's knockdown in the 5th round, their first time out. But, when it comes to Anthony Joshua, who I don't believe had punching power, seriously, I don't care what people say about that Klitschko fight. That fight was tailor-made for him to do what he did, because both of them, so-and-so was coming off a 1.5-year layoff, and he was a much older fighter past his competitive edge, and he made it interesting. He wasn't in there to beat Anthony Joshua. He was probably shocked that he was able to knock Anthony Joshua down in the 5th round. It just doesn't make any sense to me that people gave him all this credit when he went in there against Joseph Parker and went the distance. And then he fought Carlos Takam when the designated weight was 235. He came in 254, right? And he hit Carlos Takam with that right hook. And Carlos Takam got right up. So him facing Luis Ortiz, who I believe can take a pretty good punch, being a southpaw, he would get Anthony Joshua problems. Now you have to understand is that Anthony Joshua ducked Luis Ortiz back in the day. They were stalling him out, and then he ended up popping positive for I think blood pressure medicine, whatever the case may be. But they was trying to, do him dirty with the money, and he never got a chance to step in the ring with AJ because they kept on stalling him out. That was AJ. So for him to step in there with White, he's already knocked him out in the 7th round. He already finished Povetkin in the 10th round. If I'm correct, I believe he stopped Povetkin in the 10th round, who was giving him problems in Wembley. And then Parker, he went the distance. The one thing I was dissatisfied about Parker is because he was satisfied with going 12 rounds when Anthony Joshua lose his title. He wasn't in there just taking risk and going all out bonsai. He was just out there like, I think in the 4th round, he hurt Joshua. But the 3rd man in the ring, he was there to make sure that Joshua didn't receive any punishment. And not only that, Joshua ripped the tape off his gloves and went back and damn near took his own time out. You know what I'm saying? Who does that? Joshua ripped the tape off his glove and took his own time out. He tried to do the same thing with Andy Ruiz. He spit out his gum shield. That's what he's known to do. Take breathers. Seriously. That's what he's known to do, man. Now he's at a point where he can't do that. He couldn't do that with Andy Ruiz because it was in the US. He couldn't do that. And that's why he was stopped. But in Saudi Arabia, guess what? Andy Ruiz cashed out and he wasn't there to retain his titles. He was there to give them back. But they did in Saudi Arabia. So, people can understand, oh, it's neutral. It's not neutral. It's more so catered to the UK. That boxing footprint is full of people who have money to put on a boxing match and build up a stadium, which really is probably not going to be used for anything until the next fight take place, if a fight take place over there. So when it comes down to them trying to say, okay, we can't really go back over to the UK. We only fought in the US once. We're going to go over to Saudi Arabia and make this big deal over there. No, you need to come back over to the US like Tyson Fury. Seriously. Anthony Joshua need to come back over here to the US and get this work. You need to come back over here and get this work and fight somebody that's willing to go in there and give you a very competitive fight. Since you want to put out requests to Tyson Fury to help train Anthony Joshua, I mean, you want to put out requests to Tyson Fury to help train for Deontay Wilder. I mean, come on, man. Who does that? Travis said he told his friend he was going to crash the car. Okay. They were saying he was basically trying to commit suicide or whatever that day that he wrecked his car, unfortunately, because his boxing career was cut short by a cheater, and what's his name with the Rikers Owl, man, off the road into a ditch ravine. Okay. Panama also put speed in restless water. He was just all over the place. He was just all over the place with that cheating. I mean, he got what he wanted. Now he's up here doing videos trying to, validate. It's a hard sport, man, for somebody like Panama to ever get justification to re-enter. Like boxing has a lot of griminess to it, a lot of dirty underbelly, schemes and everything. But one thing you don't want to get caught doing is somewhat to the magnitude of Panama Lewis, because he took an undefeated fighter, I believe, and he ruined his career by cheating. Now, the same could be said about Antonio Margarita when he was caught by Nassim Richardson, Sugar Shane's trainer at the time. And a lot of us are speculating that he could have had those same loaded raps in there with Miguel Cotto. But just so happened, a keen eye paying attention to detail, Nassim, he pretty much identified, man, what is that gooey stuff? Them raps doesn't look right. And come to find out, he had like the plaster of Paris in his raps, where, with water, it gets harder and harder and harder. And we all saw what happened after he was made to rewrap his hands. And check this out, though. He wasn't suspended that long. And after his suspension was up, he came back, got licensed, and he was back in the ring. Now, if you don't tell me that's dirty of a fighter in this modern day era, that is one of the dirtiest that happened. Now, I know Mike Tyson bit off of Evander Holyfield. That was in the heat of battle, though. But we're talking about you're actually trying to basically end the fighter's life by putting cement, plaster of Paris in your raps and going in there and competing. And we all know how tough Miguel Cotto was. For him to take a knee, that took off years of Miguel's life, man. Like Miguel Cotto, outside of boxing, he may run into some issues later on. He seriously might have suffered some brain damage that's really not surfacing at the time. That's real, man. Like, we don't know, because Miguel Cotto is a very reserved type of dude. He's all about his family and everything. I'm glad to see he's out the ring. When you got a guy like Saddam Ali that takes your title, you want to talk about FedEx champions. Shit, we want to talk about FedEx champion. Man, come on. Panama also put speed the rest of the water. Travis said, "Yeah, I know Nassim. I was friends with his son Tiger. Okay, that's what's up. You know, he would go down as being one of those trainers that actually did above and beyond, was actually paying attention, to what's going on in such a big fight. Because after that, Sugar Shane went out there and destroyed Antonio Margarita, destroyed him. And I still to this day, looking at the pictures post fight, I truly think that Antonio Margarita had those loaded raps against Miguel Cotto. I do. I seriously do, y'all. Seriously, seriously do. But we'll see what 2020 has, man. You know, um, it's gonna be a solid year because we have a lot of very qualified fighters that have put in the work that may potentially face each other this year. And I mean this year, I'm talking about the one that's about to change over on Wednesday, I believe. We have a lot of fighters, man, that's in these weight divisions that are close. Seriously. I know Regis Progress is talking smack with Terrence Crawford right now. You know what? Listen, I know a lot of people was hoping and praying that Regis Progress was able to carry New Orleans on his back. New Orleans, baby. And, a lot of people have faith in him, but I could tell you like this, in the WBSS, I knew he was in trouble. I just knew he was in trouble. He'd take too much punishment. When he was in there with Velasco, he gets hit too much. I'm not saying he ain't tough. I'm just saying that potentially we're going to see Regis Progress move up to 147, just like Sergey Lipinets. Sergey Lipinets took that L to Mikey Garcia. Where's he at now? He's at 147. He looked pretty dang solid up at 147. So now we'll probably see Regis Progress move up to 147. Is he going to make a statement at 147? I don't see it. I don't even see Regis Progress beat Manny Pacquiao right now. That's real. And if he up there calling out Terrence Crawford, who was Regis Progress doing damage to? Like, he got knockout power at 140. Like, come on, man. Like, you calling out a switch hitter. Terrence Crawford will light into Regis Progress, man. You don't want that Terrence Crawford. People will come check out the fight, of course. But, Terrence Crawford will have the height advantage against Regis Progress, and he'll have the better hand speed against Regis Progress. Plus, he's a switch hitter. He can fight orthodox or unorthodox. It don't matter to Terrence Crawford. We just seen it with Mean Machine. So, Regis come on up here trying to make a name, trying to get some fire. I don't see it happening. And then, we have many other people that's making moves out of divisions because they looking at it like, how can I even get a belt? Or if they had a belt at that division, they say, well, it's not worth my time to stay at that division anymore. Let me move up to another one. Just like it's rumor mill that Errol Spence may indeed move up sometime or another. Or it was talk that Terrence Crawford may move up to 154. But, that's nothing that's concrete or solid. When I asked Terrence Crawford, was he planning on moving up to 154? He said he had work to do down here at 147. Travis said Regis and Tank would be a great fight. I don't know if I use that G word there, Travis, for real. I don't think I use that, man. I've just seen Regis fight so many times and see how he take punishment, and he don't have the most expedient hands. His hands are not the fastest when it comes down to it. And for him to go in there against, one thing you have to understand about Tank ain't slow. He ain't a slow fighter. Seriously, he is not a slow fighter. He might have been gassing a little bit because he's going into rounds untouched before. But guess what? Regis Prograis coming there with that style of his where he want to punch in spurts and then don't use his defense like he should. I think he'll get beat up something fierce. And I seriously think he's going to drop down to 135. Now, Tank is 25 years old. Like I told people before, in 8 years, I think the welterweight division landscape will be different. The lineup and the roster would be different. And by the time Tank gets up there, if he chooses to stay in boxing to 35 years old, I truly believe he would have went to 140 and he would potentially go to 147. We may see Tank Davis in his boxing career as a 4 division champion. It's seriously possible, y'all. It's seriously possible that Tank can end his boxing career as a 4 division champion. And there won't be any lack on his effort. I know Floyd, we don't even know if they'd be together or he'll still be signed with Floyd Mayweather at that point in time. But right now, he's a 2 division champion. He's definitely moving up to 140 sooner or later. Absolutely. And, to end it all in his boxing career with his weight and everything, 8 to 10 years from now, we may see him at 147 because by then, Crawford and Errol Spence, I just don't see them at 147, man. Another 10 years. It's no way. They'll be just like Manny Pacquiao. There'll be elders in the game. There'll be elders in the game. Real talk. Travis said the fatigue is a mental block. I'm sure Tank can go 12 rounds in sparring. Yeah, man. They say Tank is a savage in sparring, man. You know what I'm saying? He's did what he had to do. But you have to understand sparring is sparring. And in a real fight, you have some guys who show out in the gym. They're the best sparring partners you can ask for. People are enamored with these guys. But yet, seeing them in the gym, they say, hey, man, we want to get you this fight because we believe we can do something with you. But the mentality is already seated in their thought process. Once they split the ropes, they're a sparring partner. So at some point in the fight, they plan on giving up or retreating or surrendering because that's what sparring partners do at a certain point. They love taking punishments and laying on the ropes. And that prevents some sparring partners from being great champions or becoming a champion because in order for them to get to be a champion, they got to put out. And their mentality might be to take time off at the wrong time. Just like Canelo Alvarez and Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. when they fought. Chavez Jr. almost like he walked in that fight saying, I know what my orders are. My orders are to go ahead and take this beating. Canelo's going to go to the body all day. I'm going to take it. And then after the fight, Canelo announced him and Triple G was fighting. So you trying to tell me that Julio Cesar Chavez walked in there with the intent to win? No, he walked in there knowing he's supposed to lose. He did what he had to do, went 12 rounds with Canelo. And then after the fight, Canelo Alvarez announced with Triple G won. They was going to fight. That's facts, man. But I agree, Travis. Tank most definitely go 12 rounds in sparring. He went 12 rounds this past weekend. It's not like he didn't go 12 rounds. It wasn't like he was on the outside sitting in the corner, resetting all the time, running around the ring. It just wasn't the case. Like, let's count how many rounds that Tank Davis was fighting off the back foot. Look at Mikey Garcia fight with Sergey Lipinets, right? Lipinets. Look at how much Sergey had Mikey Garcia fighting off the back foot in that fight before Mikey Garcia dropped him in the 7th round. Just take a peek on what Mikey had to do to change up his fight strategy against a tough, straightforward, in your face Sergey Lipinets. He had to switch it up. But Tank Davis, man, he wasn't sitting up here fighting off his back foot, running, covering up with a high guard, doing the peekaboo, and then goddamn throwing a jab every now and then, resetting, keeping distance, trying to stay out of trouble, not work. No, he was putting out every freaking round. Even when he was tired, he was in close. Even when he was tired, he was in close. So all this damn unwanted criticism of Gervonta, it just doesn't make any sense to me, man. El Chapo. So we have El Chapo on deck saying Wilder's getting knocked out. You know, that's your opinion, bro. If you feel that the Wilder somehow, some way is going to get knocked out by a fighter that's not a knockout artist, then, you know, take a deep breath and understand what you just put. And it's okay. You still have time to use your home keys effectively and put a better statement on there. Travis says sometimes when you're fighting a guy who's not doing a lot, it can make you tired. That's true, especially when you're trying to knock him out and you can't. That's a very, very good point. Very good point. You know, that's a very reasonable assessment because, you know, when he was trying to knock Gamboa out, I'm pretty sure when he was digging and he felt those shots land, he said, you know what? I put a lot into that, but Gamboa is still standing. How? And then he tried it again. He tried it again. And then he finally got the knock down, but Gamboa got back up. You know, because the only time the crowd booed is when they thought that Jack Reese had stopped the fight because Gamboa was injured. And then his corner had to tell him that no, he's not injured. He didn't say no mas, no mas. And then Jack Reese twirled his finger, you know, counterclockwise and say the fight was going on because the fans was like, you know, what's going on, man? I know we didn't come up here for the main event to end this early. And, you know, being the Gamboa don't speak any English, it was probably misperceived of what he said. But Jack Reese, at first, it looked like he called the fight off. And then he said, no, the fight's going to resume. So Gamboa stood up, Tank stood up, and then they called action and they continued to fight. You know what I'm saying? So it turned out to be a what you call a Donnybrook barn burner. Everything. You know. Hey, y'all do me a favor, you know, check out the pics. I actually shot one of the fights on the undercard. You know what I'm saying? One of my improving specialties using photography, shooting a fight. You know, shooting a boxing match isn't easy. You know what I'm saying? And there's certain people out there respect you for what you're doing. And certain people look at it like, oh, I can do that. Go ahead and try to shoot a fight. It takes some know-how. Serious, you have to study that. You have to really know how to try to get that shot, and you have to know how to place the settings and all that. Anyway, you know, check out, you know, World Combat Sports page, man, and check out the shots that I did from the undercard. I wasn't able to get to the main cards, you know, for reasons I'm not going to talk about right now. But my access allowed me to shoot Malik Hawkins and Darwin Price, and I got some pretty good frames, man, squared up on these two. A lot of people are taking them and sharing them, and you know, this started off on a regional level with me shooting fights, but this time I shot through the ropes, and it was a good time, man. Like, I appreciated PBC and Showtime for letting me do that. I look forward to even doing a bigger fight coming up. You know what I'm saying? Articles, check out worldcombatsports.com, my Facebook page, you know, Twitter, you know, follow me on IG, and also subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's getting up there, but really, you know, it needs to continue to increase. You know, the people are tuning in. I appreciate it. One team, one fight always. I'm about to roll up out of here. You know, people got to go to work. And then, you know, it's some of y'all that's probably already drunk because New Year's a day out, right? So some of you probably already intoxicated, you know, preparing for the New Year's to come in. And do me a favor. For all you to still tune in, don't make no New Year's resolutions. There's no such thing as New Year's resolutions, man. You know what I'm saying? Travis say, yeah, my brother's a professional sports photographer. Okay, for sure, man. Salute to him. You know, with professional, when it comes to photography, it's just all about how you can consistently shoot different settings and create your own exposure in photography. I learned all that stuff on my own, for real. And it is a mechanical learning process and creating exposure for stills vice moving. That's why I tell people shooting a fight is not easy. You have to make adjustments to the lighting. You have to make sure the aperture is open and closed at certain lighting, certain parts of the ring that you at. When a fighter comes towards you and right in front of you, you know, you have to make sure you have enough space to get the shot, else you're just wasting freaking memory card space. And in one instance, the fighters was bleeding so bad when he came over to the corner and he was punching the fighter and the blood was splattering everywhere. I looked through the lens and I had blood splatter on my lens, so I had to clean that off. And you just can't clean blood off a lens. You gotta kind of dab with some water and clean it off, or else, man, your shots are gonna look terrible. Blood is crucial. Blood is one of those substances, one of those units that don't go away easy. But anyway, it was a fun time, man. I still have a lot of interviews to put up, so tune into the YouTube channel, man. It's gonna be on and popping for 2020. Um, you know, shooting on that Showtime card this past weekend was hype, man. It was on point. You know, it was a learning experience. It was a great one. Just trying to expand my scope, my range in media. And you know, y'all pass the word about World Combat Sports, man. Until then, turn up and tune in, man. Salute. I'm out.